Welcome to Movie Dumpster Season 7, Episode 10. Today we're talking about Trilogy of Terror from 1975 and Trilogy of Terror 2 from 1996, both directed by Dan Curtis. And we're going to find out if these are the scariest made-for-TV movies of all time. I'm Joel Escola.
And I'm Sean O'Rourke.
Welcome to the Dumpster. Hey, Sean, I got this Zuni fetish doll. I picked it up at the consignment shop down the street today. What do you think?
Does it have the chain? Is the chain intact, Joe?
Yeah, the chain is there. We read the little scroll before, and it said not to remove it because the Zuni doll and the warrior spirit would come together and then maybe kill somebody. I don't know.
Right, yeah. You and the mouse in your pocket, the we.
Yeah.
Because I was not involved in any reading involving a potential spirit or a doll.
Did I say we?
You did say we.
Oh. Well, me and the doll read it together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that lines up. You are, I mean, not that we don't both like our killer doll films, but you are the de facto, I guess, expert, lover, something. There's a slash in there.
Lover, maybe not expert.
Okay.
I wouldn't say an authority on killer doll films, but I am certainly have an affinity for them.
Sure.
Which is how this kind of came about, because this was our first Patreon poll episode ever.
Say that again. Ever.
Oh. Oh, you owe me a Pepsi?
Yeah, you already got it. I guess
there
I owe
you
you
go.
one now after that bad exchange. Yes, we had a theme. Originally, this was going to be a May episode.
Yeah.
Shocker, life got in the way, folks. But yes, this is now coming into you hot. But the thought was one of our May episodes, let the patrons decide with a little theme going. We had 4 films that we picked out that were all killer doll related.
Killer doll related, yeah. We had Genericia Diabolica, which is Diabolical Inheritance, which was a Spanish or a Mexican movie that was made as like Mexico's answer to Child's Play.
Right, which I still want to see.
Dude, I thought that was going to be a runaway, honestly.
We'll have to bring that one back at some point.
We had that one. We had Dolly Dearest, which is one we're going to get to eventually, too. What else do we have? We had Making Contact, a.k.a. Joey, or Joey, a.k.a. Making Contact.
I remember the trailer, because you had the one when you made the Patreon post, you had the trailers for each one in there, but...
And then the 4th one was Trilogy of Terror 1 and 2 double episode. Now, we had talked about doing this before, so it was a fun way to kind of put it all into a poll and be like, well, here's a bunch of episodes we want to do. What do you guys want? You know?
Right.
So that was kind of neat.
Because that was the antithesis. All those movies are potential episodes. Yeah. We don't want to put any definitive stinkers or big standouts. I mean, I guess depending on what you like, maybe one or the other could be standing out. But that was the whole thought process for sure.
Yeah, but this was the runaway.
It did run away with it.
Everybody wanted Trilogy of Terror 1 and 2, so this episode is for you guys because that's what you picked. So we hope you enjoy it.
Zuni fetish doll enthusiasts.
Yes, which isn't... Okay, so there's a caveat because there's only one story per installment.
Yes.
That's the Zuni doll. It's not like a whole movie about a killer doll, but I thought it was adjacent, and it's one of the most iconic killer dolls in film history, I think.
It definitely is.
Dare I say, one of the scariest ones to come out ever.
Let alone on TV.
Let alone on TV. Because at this point, what is this, 1975?
The original, at least, yeah.
Yeah, the original film. I don't think we really had any killer dolls except for Talking Tina.
I mean, yeah,
from
it's probably,
Twilight Zone.
Probably on other anthology shows they pop up occasionally.
But nothing like this. Like this,
not on that level.
Like actual running around with a knife trying to kill somebody.
You definitely have things in that vein that do come to mind, or things that are presented as dolls that may not be dolls, like a deep red kind of thing.
Oh, well,
that's a little hyper-specific of an example, but I mean... Baby's Day Out Vision as kind of enemies in movies, short people,
the doll from
creatures that have POV, the short POV. I don't know what the proper term for that would be. Killer doll POV.
It would be killer doll POV, but Deep Red doesn't count at all.
There's that doll. There's that doll in there.
There's a doll. Well,
they want you to think it's the killer for at least the first half of that film.
And you can also say Magic, which we'll get to. We're gonna be covering that one this winter next year.
The larger point, I do agree with though. It wasn't a popular genre at that point, or subgenre.
But it's not a killer doll spoilers. You know what I mean?
That's true.
This is an honest to goodness possessed killer doll.
Yeah, I keep wanting to call it a puppet because it's also a puppet, but like in the context of the actual film, you're right. It's not.
Absolutely. But before we get into this, if you want some more Movie Dumpster content, you can head over to patreon.com/moviedumpster. You can get an ad-free audio version of the show for as little as $2 a month. And we also have some great perks at the $5 and $10 tiers. You can get yourself a Movie Dumpster t-shirt. You can get yourself some sticker packs, commentaries, live watch-alongs with us, which are really cool. You get mini-sodes. And speaking of live watch-alongs, we got a super special one coming up for this month of June 2024. We're doing Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, and then we're going to watch the movie in 3D with y'all. So if you sign up for $5 or $10 tiers, you can expect that for June.
And for no money at all, if you're watching here on YouTube, please like the video and share it and subscribe if you're not already. It really does help get word out on the show. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, also leave a like and leave us a 5-star review. If you got the time, get us out of the bottom of the dumpster into more eardrums, eyeballs, and everything in between, and grow this dumpster community.
Yeah, man, it really helps. All of those reviews really help. It helps to like the video. It helps to leave that 5-star review on the podcast apps because, again, we get pushed to more people that would be interested in the show, so it really does help. But you can check us. You can also check us out on MovieDumpsterPodcast.com. We have a store there where you can get t-shirts, hats. I think we even have some beach towels up again now. It's the summertime, baby. You're gonna go kick it on the beach in style. Lay out that Movie Dumpster towel there.
Oh yeah, wrap it around your head, around your ass. Wherever you gotta wrap it around to stay dry.
I mean, it's pretty good. They're also really good quality. I'm not just bullshitting. They're nice towels. I actually used one today for my shower, and it was I'm a towel connoisseur, Sean.
The cheeks are squeaky clean, folks.
Yes, I like to get dry from a towel, and this one dries me really well. So it's great for the beach and your pool time if you want to do that too. But also you can find out where the Dumpster Boys are going to be for all different kinds of events. We got a lot of stuff coming up this year. We're going to be at Monster Mania in August. We're going to be at the Mahoning and VHS Fest in July. You're going to want to come out to those shows. It's going to be awesome, and we'll have more stuff on that as we get closer, but you can check out our calendar now.
So if you guys saw our Sinjanor episode, I forgot what the other movie was. What was it?
Scared to Death.
Scared to Death.
And
we did a double feature once before. This is going to kind of work like that episode if you saw it, where we might talk about both films throughout, but we're mostly going to focus on the first one, and then at some point we're going to take a little break and say, hey, we're going into part 2.
Yeah.
Just for the uninitiated, or if you forgot. If not, go back and check out the Sinjanor episode. It's kind of great.
I love it. And that was kind of the first time doing the experiment. So this is the second time, the second go round. And these are another couple of movies that this works for.
Yeah, you could even kind of reuse that title if you really wanted to, because it has the same monster in both movies. Different reasoning behind it, but
for sure. And well, the thing with Sinjanor and that was like one has the same monster as the other one, but they're two completely different movies, more or less. Not necessarily sequels.
No,
or not even necessarily related to each other. This is a direct sequel, but there's only 2 of these films, and of course, the Zuni fetish doll is part of both.
Right.
So, giving it to you with the killer dolls. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess with that being said, let's get into Trilogy of Terror.
Like you said, directed by Dan Curtis. He kind of did a lot of these made-for-TV movies I was reading. I didn't write too many down, but he was kind of known for them at the time.
He's the man who started Dark Shadows.
Oh my God, yeah, I couldn't believe that.
I'm not quite ready to get into that yet.
Okay.
I want to talk, just before we get there, because I got a lot of shit to talk about. But I wanted to talk about specifically your experience with this. Is this the first time you saw this movie?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This is the first time ever. Really?
I mean, I've seen this little puppet doll, whatever you want to call it, in Joe's in his basement, and before that at his old room back at his parents' house many years ago. So I'm very familiar with the character. I'm sure I've seen the clips on YouTube. I think specifically from the second one.
Yeah.
But definitely my first actual viewing of these 2 anthology films that I guess I knew that it was an anthology because, hey, Trilogy of Terror, but I never really thought about it that deeply until
it's in the name.
I popped it on and I was like, oh yeah, no shit, Sean. But yeah, no, first experience, and maybe definitely a case of why didn't I watch this sooner? Either or. One's 50 years old, the other one's now going on 30.
Jesus,
what's
50.
the damn excuse? I don't have one, but enjoyed my viewings, and we'll expand on that in the review.
I want to just talk a little bit about like my history of this film, and like so the first film dropped when my mother was a kid, so she watched it on television,
on TV. Was it ABC Movie of the Week?
Yeah, scared the shit out of her. And as I was growing up, I'd be renting movies and stuff. Now, I didn't get my hands on Trilogy of Terror, and I didn't see it until way after I saw the second one.
Oh, really? One of those?
Yeah, I didn't actually see Trilogy of Terror until it came out on DVD. I can't remember who put that. I think it was Dark Sky Films put out the DVD of Trilogy of Terror. I can't remember. Forgive me. But that wasn't until like the 2000s, right? So, but I was very familiar with the second movie because this premiered while I was growing up.
You probably saw it live yourself.
Yeah. So it was cool because when USA was going to premiere Trilogy of Terror 2, my mom would tell me about Trilogy of Terror, the first one. And she's like, oh, the Zuni doll. I'm like, oh my God, the Zuni doll. And you see him in like in the previews of the commercial and shit.
That
and it was scary
time.
as fuck, man. It was scary as hell. And she said it used to scare her so much. And she's like, oh, I can't wait to watch it. We're going to watch it together, blah, blah, blah. But she had seen it and she's a huge fan of it. So, so I just thought that was cool. And again, my mother got me into these movies, so it was something that we kind of shared.
Yeah, anytime
we really bonded over horror movies and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so,
I was gonna say anytime you can share something with a parent or a loved one, it's always there's that extra layer to it, and there's even a deeper layer what you just described. Your mom saw the original, and then
her version, and then like I have my version, which is kind of cool because it's like here's the '70s version, and then here's like the '90s contemporary version, and it's like, oh, okay,
that's like when I saw Terminator 3 with my dad in the theater.
There you go, yeah.
Wish it was 2, but anyway,
you must mate. Oh wait, no, that's
that was 4. Now we're 5. I mean, now we're getting deep into the shit. John Connor's fucking nanobot shit.
So yeah, like you said, this the first film it premiered on ABC Movie of the Week.
Tuesday Movie of the Week. Presenting the world premiere of an original motion picture produced especially for ABC.
And this was a series that ABC would do. And what they did was they kind of tested the waters for potential series. So what they would do,
backdoor pilots almost.
Right. So it would be a feature-length episode, which would be the pilot.
Like Midnight Hour almost.
Midnight.
That was much later, but
Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
Oh yeah.
That
Columbo,
was,
yeah.
Well, Kolchak started as the Night Stalker, the movie, The Night Stalker.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Produced by Dan Curtis as well.
Really? He did Kolchak?
Well, he produced it.
I guess I didn't realize that was a Kolchak thing. I saw it was Night Stalker. I guess I just assumed it was the Richard Ramirez thing. I didn't really do any deep research on it.
Oh, no. Do you know Kolchak?
Kolchak is, what's his face? Mr. Magoo.
No.
What's his name? He's like the detective.
Yeah, man, Kolchak is Darren McGavin.
Darren McGavin, the Night Stalker.
Right, not Mr. Magoo. For some reason, I always mix them up. Yeah. The dad from Christmas Story, right? And he actually, I don't remember if he was literally Kolchak, but he basically is Kolchak in X-Files when he makes a cameo. It's like, oh, I remember back in the day when I was an agent. He's like in 3 episodes.
That's pretty awesome, but he's also Max Paradise in Tales from the Darkside.
Oh, the movie?
No.
The show. What episode was that?
Distant Signals, where the aliens come.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Oh, my God.
So it's kind of funny that he's like doing his Kolchak bit, kind of.
Yeah, and I mentioned Columbo just because you said a show that was originally a special. Columbo also was similar. Which funny, him and Kolchak, similar kind of things.
To that point, so the Night Stalker is a vampire, by the way. It's not.
I'm
Richard
thinking of the
Ramirez.
Strangler. Yeah.
But no, and then there was a second film, Kolchak and the Night Strangler.
Okay, that is
so.
What
There's
you said.
2 different ones.
All right,
but the first one was Night Stalker, which then it was syndicated and turned into a series. Kolchak.
Okay.
Series.
Now I got you. Dan Curtis behind it all, somehow involved with this.
Yeah, and they did the same thing with $6 Million Man as well.
Oh, yeah.
That was a TV movie for ABC's Movie of the Week. They saw how people liked it, and then
Doctor Strange. They tried it.
Well, exactly.
We talked about it,
dude. Same shit. Exactly. Go check out that Doctor Strange episode, the '70s one. But yeah, it was made for TV because they were like, okay, this was the pitch for the Doctor Strange series that never took off. So
interesting how they used to do things. I feel like you don't really get that anymore. You might get the Disney Plus show, and if it does really good, they'll make Mandalorian into a movie or something.
Right.
But it's rare.
I mean, the way things are now, Disney's trying to keep everything to fucking streaming.
Yeah, that's a whole can of worms in and of itself. Well, you're right. Yeah.
That's like it's a weird time for movies, put it that way.
Yeah.
But we also got some really great TV movies out of that too. We got like Killdozer and Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, which is awesome. We've talked about it before.
Okay.
I want to cover that as an episode eventually, but that's a made for TV movie. Excellent flick. scary as hell. Like, these things used to be creepy, man.
I mean, I definitely have heard of Killdozer, but I've never watched it. I always just kind of assumed it was like a meme movie, but it's actually good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like it.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'll have to check it out.
There's all kinds of made-for-TV movies that, we've talked about but haven't covered yet. Like Wheels of Terror is one. I think The Car is one. There's a lot of killer car movies that are made for TV.
Low budget, they can get away with a lot with just blowing a car up.
But it was like a special, and that's what I mean. Like, it was movie of the week. You like looked forward to it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So the first Trilogy of Terror movie also had a sequel, an original sequel to it.
Really?
Called Dead of Night, also done by Dan Curtis.
Right.
So
that was the other one I mentioned because it's going to be relevant when we get to the second film.
Right. So there's Trilogy of Terror, and then there's Dead of Night. Now, Dead of Night, Dan Curtis wanted to turn into a series, a la Tales from the Darkside, Twilight Zone, all that kind of stuff. So that could have been the first incarnation of the 70s, horror anthology show.
Huh.
But it didn't take off that way, which is kind of weird. Yeah. So we'll get to Dead of Night a little bit later, but yeah. So there was two different. There was that one and Trilogy of Terror and Dead of Night. So yeah, both directed by Dan Curtis, Trilogy of Terror and Dead of Night, and he also created Dark Shadows, like I mentioned before, which is fucking huge. I mean.
And reused a lot of actors that we'll get to in both of these films.
Which is always cool. You know, I like that when a director reuses people that he likes that worked well with him, that he, that fits.
Fairly common.
Yeah. I mean, he directed episodes of the series, both of the movies, the revival of Dark Shadows, all of that shit.
And even the guy that did the music, Bob Cobert. Also did the music for Dark Shadows and a bunch of other Dan Curtis products or projects, I should say. So I guess just, again, what did we just say? Actors being reused. You hear people in production companies getting reused if they gelled together. So it lines up.
I mean, Dan Curtis is awesome, dude. He also directed Burnt Offerings, which also stars Karen Black and Oliver Reed. That movie's fucking great.
It's got Burgess Meredith in it, I think I saw.
Yeah, I think so. I think he is in it. But man, that one's one we got to cover. Actually, we talked about covering that a few years ago, so I want to circle back to that next year. So all the stories are based on Richard Matheson stories, but William Nolan adapted them to screen with the exception of Amelia.
Yeah, and I think he was even involved with, maybe you're going to bring it up when we get to it, but I think, if not all, but some of the stories of the second one too. I think I remember seeing his name in there.
Bill Nolan, I'm pretty sure, did two of them because the other one...
Oh, yeah, it makes sense.
We'll talk about it when we get there.
Right.
But yeah, I want to talk a little bit about Richard Matheson. I mean, legendary horror writer, okay? This dude, like, prolific.
I couldn't name a single thing, but I know I've seen or read things from him because that name just pops up in so many different things.
He has written a lot of your favorite Twilight Zone episodes.
Oh, that's probably where I've seen it, yeah.
So, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet is the big one that everybody should know.
Wow. Yeah, if you know Twilight Zone at all, yeah.
He did The Invaders as well, and Steel, which was a Twilight Zone episode and then adapted into a movie, The Real Steel with Hugh Jackman.
Really? That was a Twilight Zone episode originally?
Yeah, I had no idea. I saw that connection. I was like, I gotta mention that.
Man, how does that compare to Real Steel?
Yeah,
who's getting the robot fucking costume?
No idea.
Horror sex?
He's also responsible for The Last Man on Earth, the Omega Man.
No, yeah, Omega Man. That's a great movie.
I Am Legend. That's what the
Heston, I think, is Omega Man. That version.
Yeah, and Last Man on Earth is Vincent Price.
Yes,
but the original story is I Am Legend, and then of course the Will Smith movie is based on it as well.
Doesn't really follow it at all. The Vincent Price one, I think, is actually the most accurate to the story. But Omega Man is just a good movie,
dude. If you haven't read I Am Legend.
I have, but it's been it's got to be literally 30 years or 25 years.
It's awesome. Like, it's really good. Like, it's a hella good it's a vampire story.
Just because, a quick aside, my dad was always really into a lot of the movies from that era and loves Vincent Price. So I'd seen it, so I looked it up, back when I was in middle school, maybe.
Yeah, well,
for a revisit.
To that point, he did The Incredible Shrinking Man.
Oh, another one of my dad's favorites.
Yeah,
Cat's getting him.
Yeah, there you go, man.
Which is a scene in the film when he shrinks and his fucking cat's trying to kill him.
He did the screenplay for Tales of Terror and Ride the Nightmare for Hitchcock Presents. He did.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff, dude. The author of Hell House.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I did see that.
Which was turned into
multiple things.
A lot of different iterations of that story. And it's right here on the table, too.
Oh.
Yeah. Then he did some Outer Limits episodes. He did Dance of the Dead for Masters of Horror.
Wow.
He wrote Stir of Echoes.
Why does that sound familiar?
Kevin Bacon. Where Kevin Bacon gets not hauntings, but he's got premonitions about the death of this girl.
I gotta see that.
It's really good. Yeah, it's really good. It's the one that he plays Painted Black.
I haven't seen that.
Because oh man,
I like Kevin Bacon. Just that one slipped through the fingers, Joe.
It's a good one, man.
That and Hollow Man.
If you guys
they're going through the fingers,
if you guys haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out too. It's a good flick. I wouldn't mind covering Stir of Echoes. That'd be kind of neat.
It doesn't take much to get me on the hook for a movie, unless I've seen it and I know it's bad. Usually you could just say, "Hey, let's cover it," and you got me, Joe. It doesn't take much.
Maybe a minisode for Patreon.
All right.
He did the screenplay for Jaws 3D as well, which I thought was fun because that's the best Jaws sequel.
It is.
I'll die on that fucking hill.
Dustin Elkins. It might not be this year, and I know we're trying not to talk about future episodes, but that is one we need to cover at some point because there's actually a decent amount to say about it, and it's fucking fun. It's fun with a capital F-U-N.
I know I'm going on and on about Richard Matheson, but like,
how could you not?
He's just done so much stuff.
Yeah.
So he wrote Night Stalker and Night Strangler as well. Like I said before, he did the '74 Dracula with Jack Palance, and he did a bunch of adaptions for Roger Corman, R.I.P. And he wrote Duel for Spielberg.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I want to say that 74 Dracula Dan Curtis might have also directed. Again, I didn't write down his IMDb, but I know he did direct one Dracula 70s film, so I wonder if that's the connection on that one.
I could be.
If not, it's cool either way.
Also, I said he did Duel for Spielberg, and what I mean by that is the original story is by Richard Matheson, and then he did the screenplay for Spielberg.
Sure, right, yeah.
And just real quick on Bill Nolan again. We're gonna get to him again in Trilogy of Terror 2, but just for this, he wrote Burnt Offerings for Dan Curtis, who's also Karen Black and Oliver Reed is in it. Like I just said, his also big claim to fame is Logan's Run.
Yes, which I did. I've never actually seen that movie, so maybe I'm missing out because I've always heard good things about it. But I did read that it's very different than the book.
Wasn't it also a series too?
That's the knowledge of Logan's Run just shot out of my fucking ear, Joe. I'm very unschooled on Logan's Run.
I get Logan's Run and Cannonball Run fucked up. Logan's Run is the one with Jenny Agutter, right?
Yes.
And Basil from Austin Powers.
I have no fucking idea.
It's
probably
like
right.
Futuristic.
That sounds right.
It's like set in the future. I think I can't remember.
It's a whole.
Yeah.
It's a part of cinema I've missed out on, unfortunately.
I've only seen clips. I don't. Yeah. Maybe I've seen the whole thing at one point, but I can't remember.
Sure. It happens sometimes. Yeah. Blind spots.
So yeah, man, let's jump right in. Let's go into Trilogy of Terror.
I make you nervous, Doctor?
Karen Black, a major star, creates a television first.
There's a golden chain wrapped around it to keep the spirit from making the doll come to life.
Face to face with the unbearable unknown. Trilogy of Terror.
Starring Karen Black, and I kind of love how both of these movies pick an actress, and they're like, fuck it, you're the main character in all of these parts, you're just playing something different each time, which keeps it interesting, for the most part.
Man, she didn't even want to do this fucking movie.
Okay, so you want to go into that? It's kind of interesting trivia.
I'd rather talk about Karen Black in the beginning, and then we can just go through the movie.
Who is prolific, is in a ton of shit, is also a singer, but I couldn't, again, name a single song.
Me neither. Karen Black, she's been in a ton of stuff. It's so funny. She didn't want to do this movie, but it's so funny how she has become this it's kind of solidified her spot as this like
horror,
cult horror actress.
Well, it's that, this, and I think Invaders from Mars, the remake.
Invaders from Mars. Well, man, there were so many I had to write them down. I couldn't even remember. Burnt Offerings, Eternal Evil, Invaders from Mars, Out of the Dark, Mirror Mirror, Night Angel, Annie Lee's Meat Pies. I mean, there's
Airport 75.
Now she's done a bunch of drama stuff, but like, who really remembers Karen Black for her drama shit?
Who remembers her for Invisible Dad?
Invisible
by Fred Olin Ray.
Yeah, Invisible Dad.
Well, there's also Mom, but she's in Dad. And she's also, of course, because I guess they just really needed her for this film, Full Moon. They love to bring their actors back.
Oh, Ooga Booga?
Yeah, I couldn't believe she's like, I did the Zuni doll thing. I guess I'll do this other borderline. I mean, I think this is actually portrayed very well. It doesn't ever quite cross the line as far as where it could go in it, at least in my opinion, where it could be racist or taken the wrong way. Ooga Booga, haven't seen it, but I feel like just based on the name, they're stepping over that line hardcore.
It's actually anti-racist.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it's more like
color me surprised.
It's more like I think Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks are going to get to it.
Sure.
But
I know they did mention that when they came on for RAGDOLL. Yes. Yeah, it's not what I think
it's like it's like a comedy version of the story in Tales from the Darkside with the slave dolls.
Okay.
Kind of.
I just assumed she fought a Zuni doll in one movie. Let's get her to fight this other doll. Monster kind of thing.
In that,
that is a epitaph of a black person. I was like, oh, is that the dots we're just connecting for Karen Black Full Moon?
Could be. This is an ancient warrior that we'll talk about. The other guy is
very surface level with it.
The other one is a guy who gets killed. And then goes into a doll.
Okay, so
kind of like Child's
Chucky.
Play, kind of. But he's like a good guy. He's like an anti-hero.
Right. I mean, I am curious. I haven't watched it, so again, I am talking out of my ass a little. I just weird connection that she was hit both of those movies.
Oh yeah, I think it's funny as hell. Just real quick.
Sure.
So at the time she was married to Robert Burton, who plays
Chad.
He plays Chad in this first story, but so she wasn't going to do the movie, and Burton was in this flick, and he's like, "Oh, you got to be a part of it." She only did it because she was married to Rob. She calls him Skipper.
Right? But that's the only reason why she did it, regardless.
Right?
Which, that is weird, especially when she's the focus and plays I guess technically 4 different parts.
Yeah, but I love how it's always the actor's like, I don't even want to do this piece of shit, and it's one of their most iconic roles ever.
Well, look at fucking Alec Guinness in Star Wars, for God's sakes.
Exactly.
Or the one we always love to joke about, but Bob Hoskins and Mario. I mean, a little bit different compared to Star Wars, but hey, I was fucking King Lear. It's like that interview he talks about.
Nobody gives a fuck about King Lear, but everybody cares about Mario.
Imagine if he was like, I was the guy in the wall. I run in on Pink. I'm trying to stop him from killing himself. Remember that part?
Eddie Valiant.
Yeah, well, Eddie Valiant. Yeah, that's his best role.
Now you're talking about Academy Award status.
Fuck King Lear, you're right. Eddie Valiant's where it's at.
So yeah, story 1, Julie.
Yes. I do kind of like the opening of this. Just immediately sets you up. You're at a college campus.
Yep.
It's funny as hell that this guy's named Chad. Obviously, this was just a name at the time that was popular, but now, many years removed, it's kind of associated with douchebags.
He's a literal Chad.
A Chad or a Brett.
If you look it up in the Urban Dictionary, this guy's fucking picture is there. This is where
varsity jacket?
This is where it came from.
Yes. And speaking of, just quickly, I'll mention this if you haven't noticed already, video watchers. I'm wearing a Diddler t-shirt, custom made by our friend, a friend of the show, Logan Hendrick from the Video Vila podcast. He made this. He drew it after we kind of mused about this concept of the Diddler as a wrestler on a live show. And I wore it specifically for this episode. Okay. 1, because thank you, Logan. But 2, this man and someone else later wants to diddle this teacher that's walking by, and he's very excited about her.
Let's make it perfectly clear that the MDU diddler diddles with consent.
That is actually true.
Yeah.
Go back and watch that Batman Forever episode. He might have said some uncouth things, but he does do it with consent.
Yes.
He's not just shoving that Riddler cane up your ass without asking. Unless you're Batman, then all fucking bets are off. Anyway, let us know if you're interested in this t-shirt. Maybe I'll throw a picture online on the video here so you can actually see it, and let us know in the comments. Maybe we'll sell this on the store if you're interested. MovieDumpsterPodcast.com.
So Karen Black plays Miss Eldridge, and she's this uptight, kind of prim and proper, prudish teacher. She's got her hair classic, up in a bun.
Oh yeah,
no makeup, a very conservative dress, all that kind of stuff. Very quiet and very stereotypical. Yeah,
but she walks by this Chad, and the second she walks by, he's like, "Huh, you know what?" Because he's talking to his pal to the left of him. The guy, he looks like the fucking guy from what Cranberry Sauce. What's that movie?
Blood Rage.
Blood Rage. The boyfriend, that Italian guy from New York. I just picture that in my head. It's not the guy, but that's what I think of. But he's like, yeah, look at all the dogs in this school, and they're talking shit about all the women. But he's like, or Chad's like, oh, that woman, that teacher. I wonder what she's like under those clothes. This idea just popped in my head.
They're scoping for chicks to date rape.
I mean, come to find out, I guess that is what it is, right?
It's fucked up. They're hunting for girls to target. And he ends up choosing Miss Eldridge.
It's like a game to him. It's like he gets turned on by the idea of
he's literally daydreaming about date raping this woman. What he's going to do.
Take her picture, takes the shirt off and everything. You're like, wow, this is pretty vivid. But okay, I guess that's his fantasy. So he's in class while she's teaching. And this first awkward thing kind of happens. where she like sits down on the desk and she like her legs a little exposed. You know, she's got stockings on, but it's sexual. No one notices it but him, but it's sexual.
Well, he's eye fucking her the whole time.
Oh yeah,
like trying to obviously make it known that he's checking her out.
Sure, there is that. Drops her pencil. He's like, oh,
Yeah.
oh no, or rather he drops his. I should say.
Well, this is also he's jerking that pencil.
Something's going on with somebody's pencil, his or someone else's. We're not sure.
So class gets out and he starts trying to like hit on her, and he's like, oh, you like films, Swedish films? No, he doesn't say that. He's like, let's go to the movies sometime. I think it'd be really nice. My hobby's photography. I think you're a swell gal.
Yeah, they got this movie Sallow playing at the drive-in if you want to come with me. I heard it's great.
It's a great Italian film, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you're inferring. But not really. He doesn't go quite there with it. I'd love it if he did, because just the ridiculousness of that.
She tells him to take a hike.
Sure.
And that's it.
And his friend's even like, trying to hit on a teacher? That's kind of fucked up.
Dude, you can't be doing that shit, man. He's like, yeah, watch me.
I do what I want.
So we get like some time with Julie like at her apartment or wherever she is with another, I guess on campus, and she's living with another teacher, Anne, and she's basically like, she tries to get her to go out because she's so like she's
indoors,
a homebody, and she's not really social, and she should come out and get a drink or dinner or something with the girls or what have you.
She's even like, come out, my boyfriend's got a friend, he's nice. And you're like, all right. She's like, nah, I'm good.
She's like, something, Julie? If you try just a little bit harder, you could be attractive.
Well, again, what was it, 75?
And it's like, God damn, lady.
They definitely, I mean, not that, looks, your personal beauty standards haven't, like, drastically changed. That still is a problem, but that definitely is. They're beating that home in 75. The homebodies, they don't get laid, Joe.
Yeah, I guess.
And they're going to beat that drum at least one more time in this anthology.
Also, it's none of your fucking business.
No, sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
to be fair, there's at least ulterior reasonings behind this situation we'll come to find out.
I think it's funny because she's more than getting hers. And
That's
the other
what I
one's
mean.
like totally unbeknownst.
Well, so then, she's like going into her bedroom and getting changed and, just taking her shirt off, but the way it's framed is like a little seductive. And then they like cut to outside in the bushes. It's not Loomis this time, thank God, actually.
He's coming 6 times.
Yeah, right. Chad's in the fucking bushes coming 6 times. Just fucking voyeuring in the window, just watching this woman.
Dude, she drops her robe and he's like, I could finally see what she looks like underneath all those clothes.
I don't even have to do that fantasy I had. Well, actually, I'm still going to do it.
Actually, I'm totally going to do it.
Now I really want to do it.
Yeah.
Because the next day he's back in class and he's like really ramping it up. Like, come on, teachers and students aren't supposed to date. And again, they keep saying teachers. Again, maybe this is just a time frame thing where this was like a more common colloquialism. But I had to like look it up. I'm like, this is college, right? Like, please let this be college. It is. Yeah. But that threw me for a loop.
He just looks 40.
They both kind of looked about that.
Well, it's funny because they're also married in real life.
In real life, yeah. But they are college students because even she's like, there's co-eds. Why would you want to go out with me? And he's like, there's something about you. I don't know. Come see this French film. So she does kind of relent and say, all right, well, as long as it's not like a date, sure.
They're going to a drive-in.
Well, she's,
an idiot.
Gaslighting herself a little.
So it's funny because on the screen, the Night Stalker is playing the movie. So I thought that was kind of funny. It's like, this whole French vampire movie.
I mean, I understand just, to save some budget, and it is almost kind of like an inside joke. But yeah, just say it's an old movie. Yeah. Maybe leave the French part out. I get he's just trying to get her to go
Dan was thinking with the old noodle, dude. He's like, I'm going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone on this one.
And Chad was thinking with the pencil.
Speaking of Chad, he's like, you thirsty? She's like, I could use something to drink.
No popcorn, though.
No popcorn, though. Alf is in the back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Imagine Alf's in the back there when he witnesses what happens. Hey, Julie, don't drink that. Oh.
Yeah, but Willie comes to, like, take him out of the back seat.
No, Willie, we need to stop them. We're kind of spoiling the next part, but...
So Chad gets out to go get his drink, or go get the drinks.
Oh, God, the Mahoning drive-in looks exactly the same to this day, by the way. They're not charging $1 for 2 root beers. They'd be out of business.
It's a fucking nickel or some shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, here's a nickel for 2 rupees, 2 A&Ws.
Yeah.
He slips her a fucking Mickey in one of these things, dude, and takes it back to her.
Tastes bitter.
He's like, mine too. They must not be using enough syrup in those drinks anymore.
Alf's grabbing on the side of the window. You're roofied!
If only Alf was there, he could have stopped the maniacal Chad.
Unfortunately, a series hadn't been invented yet, so we could not stop this situation from happening.
He was on Melmac eating a fucking cat. His planet did not explode yet.
Right. Yeah. Oh my God, I didn't even realize that's what happened. Was he like Superman?
You pretty much.
Oh my God.
Well, not really.
Same backstory.
Oh yeah, nuclear holocaust on Melmac. Yeah.
Wow, the Alf lore that I never knew. I guess that's what happens when you just watch random episodes that are airing on TV and not the first couple.
It's almost like we need to do a Patreon-only Alf show.
Stop coming up with ideas. We already got too many that we haven't been able to deliver on.
I would love it. Well,
I would love it too, actually. Yeah. We did that Halloween episode.
Eventually, we'll have enough sustainability where we could do that.
We could have Alf sitting here with us one day.
Paul Fusco himself will be underneath the table, puppeteering him.
Yes.
So she fucking passes out, dude. Out like a light.
Oh my God, it's disturbing.
Yeah, it's really fucked up. And he like takes her to a hotel and like checks into it.
As the Harkers.
And he's like, oh yeah, Jonathan Harker and my wife, Mrs. Harker.
Which is a Dracula reference.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, this guy doesn't even check on the woman. He's just like, all right, whatever, you're paying, sure.
Here's
the key.
He carries this unconscious woman into this room. And, like, he lets her hair down and he starts, like, undressing her and stuff. And then he starts taking pictures of her.
Dan Curtis is like, all right, bring in the Dutch angles. I mean, it looks cool, but it is incredibly creepy, which is the intent.
It's real gross. It's real gross. And again, for like a made-for-TV movie, there's some the suggestiveness of this is pretty intense, they especially for the time.
They don't leave a lot on the table. Like, you know what's happening. He's crawling on top of her, and then you come back from commercial, and she's woozy in the car, like, okay, I guess.
And he, like, drops her off. And he's like, oh, yeah, you passed out. No big deal. She's like, oh, it wasn't a great date. And he's like, nah, you were great. Don't worry about it.
Until the next day when he fucking wakes her up on the phone like, yeah, you sleeping? Yeah. Well, by the way, I'm going to start blackmailing you and come meet me and I'll explain why.
Dude, it's fucked up. He's like, you're going to fucking meet me or else, you're going to be in some bad trouble. And she's like, what are you talking about? Stop it, Chad.
Right. Well, because she says when he walks into the door that they can't see each other again because she's kind of like, this was not a good idea. I could get fired. You could get expelled. Yeah. And he's like, I do whatever I want.
Yeah, we'll see about that, Miss Eldritch.
And this is the first part of, I guess, his plan is to meet her in his fucking convertible with this fucking manila envelope full of pictures.
You see him in the dark room developing pictures.
He's got the film canisters from RE2.
Yeah, well, he hangs them up and they fucking all light on fire because Vigo is in one of them.
Oh, well, he's got that too. Yeah, you're never going to find out what that fucking safe code is now.
No, and Winston's not going to save him either.
No, well, that's true. Well, those chemicals are very dangerous, Joe. Julie warned us about that.
Yeah, and, we'll see what happens with that. So it's not even 8, and like you said, he, like, blackmails her. He goes, he picks her up and they take a drive. He's like, yeah, so you're not going to go out with me again, huh? Take a look at these babies. And he, like, gives her this manila folder, like you said, and she's taking it out. She's like, you are sick, but I actually like it. No, you were disgusting.
Yeah, a little bit, right?
Yeah, well, as we come to find out.
Sure. But then the whole thing is he's now blackmailing, like we're saying, and he's like, yeah, no one's going to find out about this. If you try to call it off, I'm going to fucking deliver this to the local paper.
Not even that. He's like, I'll lie. I'll tell them that you seduced me and you forced me to take those pictures, and they're not going to believe you or whatever.
Yeah, playing the rich white guy, the student card, I guess, actually.
You got a thing for students.
So then she goes along with it, and we have another really uncomfortable scene where it's another day in class.
Well, she's like, well, what do you want from me, Chad?
Oh, well,
and he gives her that small dick smile,
Well, he got the big small dick energy with the car and this attitude he has. Usually you expect like a big ass truck, but this is 75. This is more in line with the Corvette.
Again, this next scene, made for TV movie.
Yeah.
He writes a note down. She's like teaching class. It's really
this is what I'm talking about. Very uncomfortable.
Man, it's really uncomfortable. He like writes her this note in the middle of class and walks up and like puts it in a book and like puts it on her desk.
Yeah, mid-sentence. It's like kind of awkward for the other students.
Yeah.
Even they're like looking at each other as she's reading this note to herself and clearly like, having like a panic attack, for lack of a better term. And they're like, they realize it's because he handed it to her, but they don't know why.
Yeah. And on the note, it says, come directly to my apartment after class. I have some friends I'd like you to meet. So he's insinuating this, like, against your will gangbang that's about to happen.
Right, yeah. This is a bukkake she does not want a part of, but she is going to be because otherwise she loses her career because of this nutball guy she decided to to just go see a fucking movie with, not even like really like do anything with. So of course, like she solemnly kind of, does this thing. She cancels class or cancels it early. And then we have a cut to much later. You don't even really realize what's happening at first, but she's like walking into her apartment. And I guess the sun's just coming up. It's been that long.
Yeah, because there's a passage of time.
Right, yeah.
Where it's been going on for so long. And
I mean, even just that one instance of she left class, let's say at 2:00 and she got home at 5 a.m.
Well, she talks to Anne, and Anne's like, what's going on with you? You've been coming home super late for the past 3 months, and you're like, holy shit, this has been going on for that long?
Well, she even says, I stayed up all night. Again, this woman's getting gangbanged down the road against her will.
By doing God knows what.
Yeah. So anyway, she says, she can't tell Anne about what's going on. Just drop it. Yeah. And Anne's clearly, concerned. Cut to the next day. Now it's just like, this totally took me off guard, where she's now in Chad's apartment. I almost said Peter, because I kept thinking of Peter for Black Christmas.
He kind of looks like him.
A little bit, again. It was the style.
Yeah.
Peter, a little bit more tragic of a character, even though I still think he's an asshole if you watch Black Christmas.
Still a maybe not a rapist, but still a scumbag.
Still a scumbag. Go check out our episode. It's an old one, but go check it out. Black
one.
Christmas, one of the best horror movies ever. Definitely Christmas horror for sure.
I think one of the best ever.
Yeah, period. So anyway, we're at his apartment, and he now is sitting there playing a Boston around Julie, and now she's wearing totally different attire. She has like this long black dress on, her hair's down. You're like, whoa, what's going on now?
She's fixing him a drink. He's playing fucking Chopin or something on the record player.
Oh, when she turns that off, he does not like that.
He's like, what do you think you're doing? I didn't tell you could do that. Speak when you're spoken to, bitch, or whatever he says.
Right, and then here is the last page of your EC comic reveal, Joe. The final page of the story comes into sight.
It's really good.
It is.
She's like, it's all over, Chad. And he's like, oh, so you're making the rules now? Is that how this is going?
She goes, from this day forward, I am.
And he's like, it's not over until I say it is. And she's like, well, here's the thing. I don't think so. I'm bored. And when I'm bored, the game's over. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? The whole thing was her idea. And she like lays this master plan out. She's like, who seduced who exactly?
Yeah.
Those little subtleties of the leg coming out and like walking past him and like.
There definitely is subtext that there's something magical involved. At least that's how I read it, but maybe I'm just overthinking it. I thought she was like a witch or some shit, but then I mentioned that to you earlier and you're like, nah.
No, she's not a witch, but she's like, do you think, she says stuff like, I mean, you can only do so much in a TV movie, but the way that it's inferred is like, do you think you could have come up with all these dramatic experiences that we've had? So like all these crazy sexcapades they've been having, do you think that was all your idea? Like, no, like I influenced you to do these things.
Put the idea in his head, whispered in his ear. And then so he's drinking this drink, and I'm immediately like, well, I guess you've known each other for a while, but I would never let a stranger mix my drink unless they're a bartender, but okay.
She's like, don't worry, Chad. I always get bored after a while. No big deal. And he's like, what?
She's like, one boy did last 9 weeks. He was the best one, but even still, I had to kill him.
I was thinking about him while you were screwing me with those 5 other guys.
Right. Those guys, by the way, did they get any comeuppance? Because if you didn't just say it,
well, they got a fucking free ride, dude.
Literally, well, she also got a free ride.
Well, also true.
All parties involved. But yes, there's poison in his drink. Drano or something.
She's
I don't
like,
know.
first there's dizziness, then paralysis, then cardiac arrest. And it's such a banger, dude, because he like throws on the ground. He's like, oh my God, you've drugged me. And she's like, no, darling, I've killed you.
Right.
And it's like, oh, it's such a fucking good.
It's your classic Black
good
Widow.
cinch, dude. It's great.
Femme fatale kind of thing. I do kind of wish there's a little bit more of a switch before you got the reveal, but I know that is 100% the homage. I mean, it's a very recent homage compared to like a Creepshow, but
but you get a little bit more here because she pulls into the dark room and she lights the fucking the fix or the chemicals on fire and it all burns down.
And she keeps saying like throughout the episode, I always told them that was dangerous.
Those chemicals are dangerous, there, kiddo.
Laying the groundwork.
She's like sitting in bed and Anne comes in and she's like, oh my God, he was one of your students, wasn't it? Gives her the newspaper.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, he was such a good boy. I told him that those chemicals were dangerous and to be careful. Oh no. Next thing you know, she's fucking cutting out the article and she's got her like Freddy Krueger scrapbook of like kills that she like puts it in.
Well,
and
that's her trophies.
It's great, dude, because there's like a ton of them and she closes the book and like puts it in the drawer. And then there's a knock at the door, and it's great. Like
another student to get tutored,
and he's like, "Hey, thanks for offering the tutoring, Miss E. Kind of come in and hang out. We can like do this or whatever." And she's like, "Yes, I believe this is going to be the start of a great relationship."
Just before we continue, because I know you're going to tell me who this guy is, but I did wonder if Debbie from Addams Family Values also had a scrapbook, because that seems right, because she was also the Black Widow.
Well, she did have that slideshow.
Oh yeah, she did. You're right. That's
the doctor,
as close as you're going to
get.
The
lawyer, and then her parents, and the house fire, and all that.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, she didn't ever have her own collector's card as well.
So do you think that Julie, not Amelia,
not yet.
Do you think Julie, if this was made in the '90s, she would have upgraded to the Debbie
slideshow?
Yeah.
No,
she would have kept the scrapbook going.
Like Wednesday says, she's sloppy, right?
Well, that's true.
Debbie's sloppy.
Julie's not.
Julie is not.
She's not going to go into Michael's and start getting trim to go around the scrapbook. She keeps it very clean.
And she might even be even more dangerous, because she's not just after the money, Sean. She's after those carnal desires. And nobody's going to take that away.
That's true.
Yeah.
Speaking of carnal desires, who is this that walks in at the end, Joe?
Dude, we are on to the next one, because she opens the door to Carl Winters from Razorback.
Oh, I would have never put that one together.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Gregory Harrison as Arthur. He's Carl Winters in Razorback, the guy who goes after his wife.
Yeah, oh my God.
And fights a giant fucking Razorback wild boar.
Still my biggest complaint about that whole film. Like the character, but the way it's handled is still just weird to me.
Razorback is so good. Go check out that episode if you haven't.
Check out the episode for sure. Yeah. And we did a book to the movie also, actually.
We also did book to the movie, yeah. So what did you think of the first story?
I think it's good. Again, the twist, maybe too much of a twist for me.
Okay.
But I do appreciate this angle of horror, where the horror is this terrible situation this woman's in by this over-demeaning man. It's not exactly what I was anticipating. But you always get a different flavor with anthologies, so it was a good different flavor.
So I tried to read all the Richard Matheson stories that went with them in here, but I only got around to Prey, which we'll talk about when we get to it. But I think it's great. I think it's a really good. It's a great twist at the end, in my opinion. And the whole time you're like, oh my God, how's she gonna get out of this? Or like, she's doomed or whatever. And I just love the idea of her being like, yeah, okay, man. Right. Like, I just wanted to get mine, and I'm done with you, so...
In a very roundabout way, yes.
Yeah. Well, it's like
It's her kink.
Well, it's a whole game. Yeah, it's her kink, dude. So I kind of really enjoyed that, kind of flipping that on its head. And again, I mentioned this to you before the episode, but like this movie in particular, like as a whole, has like a women empowerment kind of thing to it, or like dangerous ladies, or like
femme fatale, like I said,
femme fatales, yeah, which I like, you know what I mean. And it kind of runs the gamut of them, which I kind of enjoy about it.
Different versions of that, I can see that,
and plays with that a little bit. So for the first story, I mean, I think it's great. I think it's solid as hell.
Karen Black knocks it out of the park on part one.
She's so good.
Part one of part one.
Yeah. So yeah, story 2. Yes. Millicent and Therese.
Yes. This is going to be a little hard to talk about this one. So I guess we have this woman, Millicent, but
you can call her Millie because that's what people call her.
Melissa Sin, or whatever the fuck the one from Sleeping Beauty is called. I can never say it right.
That's Maleficent.
Maleficent. That's what I kept thinking of the entire damn episode. Episode,
two different
segment,
names.
whatever. Yeah, but
Millicent and Maleficent.
Yes. But Millie, I'll refer to her as, just to make it easier for me, is kind of this, I don't know, stereotypical. I don't want to keep reusing that word because it loses meaning, but kind of what you would think of a kind of a shut-in from, almost like the way this woman's presented. Her aesthetic is very like 1930s, or if not earlier, feels like.
It's very conservative. Again,
I guess, she's
got this kind of biddy look to her.
Biddy's a good word,
with the bun up and the very conservative dress with like the collar.
Way
and,
more than that first segment,
and like a floor-length fucking dress. She looks like Whistler's mother.
Literally, the glasses especially. I think those Coke bottle glasses put it over the edge.
But it's a great she's a great character actor in especially in this one. The two completely different types of women that she plays.
Yes. Yeah. Because she's writing in her diary, and it's just like a narrative or voiceover rather.
Teresa's is out with some guy fucking some man, and I'm home by myself again.
Like you're hearing like the wind blowing in the background, and, like the fucking branches hitting the window.
It's all VO, and it's really cool. She's like, father's dead.
I'm waiting for Ichabod Crane to walk in. That's like kind of the vibe I'm getting here, because I don't really know like what the time period is at first, and then like when you get your second character, it's a little bit more obvious. But
so like these are the exposition dumps, and like their father had just died, and Therese is a spoiled bitch, and she shouldn't have any of the money or the estate, but she has to split it with her because it's her sister, and blah blah blah. And father always loved her, and he never loved me as much, and blah 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 blah.
But Therese is evil, and I had to stay away from her, and we never got along, and there's a lot of that going on. Like she's writing in the diary, narrating.
Because most of it is that's her exposition. Is from that. So John Carlin is here as Tom Anmar, and he was in Dark Shadows. He's like a big Dark Shadows actor. He's also Mac in Surf Ninjas.
Okay, I saw he was in that, but I didn't know any significance.
I'm pretty sure he plays Ernie Reyes Jr.'s dad. Or at least whoever, his name's Mac. I'm pretty sure it's his dad, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I'm almost positive.
Due for a rewatch, I guess.
Yeah, oh, dude, we gotta do Surf Ninjas, dude. Quan Su, dude, we gotta do it. Moto Surf. It's gotta happen.
Maybe.
So he comes in, and he's looking for Therese. And he's like, hey, supposed to come around here. You know, is Therese here? Where is she? Millicent opens the door, and she's like, oh, she was at a party or whatever, and my sister's such an unusual girl.
Right. And he's like, well, right after the funeral, she was so broken up. She's like, it was all an act. She believes in Satan and evil.
My sister is evil. Look at these books. Pornography, demonology, Satanology.
I think she got that from the fucking, like, the section in Barnes & Noble with, like, the Jurassic Park and, like, collected works of Shakespeare.
The fucking leather-bound
That's what they look like.
Yeah. That's how books were made.
No, I know. I know. I'm like... thinking about something that came out many, many decades later.
Grimoires?
Grimoires, yeah. She's like, look at this filth. And he's like, well, I don't know anything about that. And she's like, well, what about that night in Milan? She told me all about that. And he's like, oh, you know about that?
And again, like, what did she have him do? This unspeakable thing that you can't even talk about. So your mind is like racing, like, what the fuck this scumbag did?
She just said it involved violence and hurting people. So it couldn't have been nice.
I think sodomy was involved for sure.
I think that's the implication.
Then she starts dumping on him like, oh yeah, so my sister's evil, by the way. When she was 16, she seduced my father. Right. And then my mother killed herself with pills and all this shit. And I'm like, whoa. And this guy's like, hold the fucking phone. Right. What are you talking about?
I didn't need this entire thing just kind of dropped on me. I'm here to support Therese during her father's funeral.
Yeah, and she's like, and by the way, mother didn't kill herself. It was on purpose. Therese did it.
Okay, I guess.
So Satan guides her, apparently, throughout her life. And yeah, the night in Milan, somehow she got you to share that perversion, whatever that perversion may be.
Right, the sexual or violent thing that happened, or possibly both.
It's like, fuck me, I'm getting out of here. Fuck you. You're like, this is crazy. This is insane. And she's like, I freed you. Now leave. I freed you of Therese. You're fine.
But then she like calls her doctor, Dr. Gordon Ramsay. Or George,
smell it!
And that's not Gordon Ramsay. It's something Ramsay. I was mixing up. His actual name is George Gaines.
Yes.
I don't know where I got Gordon out of that.
Because his last name is Ramsay.
Ramsay,
Dr. Ramsay.
I guess. Yeah, there's the connection. But he's famously in all the Police Academy movies. He's Lassard, who's like the main guy. Which I was looking up clips because I haven't watched Police Academy in a while, and I totally forgot there's the scene in the first one when it looks like what's his face is giving him a fucking blowjob, and it's like the hooker or whatever. I gotta rewatch it, but it's a hilarious scene because then when he looks back at the end, he thinks it's Steve Guttenberg that did it, and he looks like he's about to faint.
I gotta rewatch those, man. I think
first couple are good, and then I think it's just like, well, we're still making these, huh? We made 6 of them.
God, there are 6, aren't there?
He's in all of them.
And then there's like a remake.
I don't know about the remake.
Or like a newer one.
It's possible, like Tremors. There's many in the fucking the line of films.
He's also Grandpa in Step Monster.
Oh, okay.
Which I was like, oh, that's Grandpa in Step Monster. And he's already in the MDU, by the way.
Oh, who is he? What was he in?
He was a doctor in Roger Corman's Fantastic Four.
Oh yeah, I actually did write that down. He's in the first scene when they're getting taught in class or whatever the fuck it is, and I don't think he returns.
It's the same guy.
Yeah.
Same doctor.
Deal with their shit because he's talking on the phone with Millie and she's like, yeah, you're going to have to get down here. It's bad with Therese. And he's like, okay. Like, you're already like not sure what the real problem is because the doctor reacts in such an opposite way than she is kind of presenting the situation, almost like he knows something. At least that's how I read it instantly.
He's like, she goes, she's jealous of us again, doctor. And he's like, wait, what? And she's like, you got it. I need to see you tomorrow. You need to come over. And he's like, wait. I thought we had this all sorted out. What are you talking about? And he's like, all right, I'll come by tomorrow to see what the deal is.
Exactly. That's what it is. And then he does show up. But instead of Millie this time, Therese opens the door.
And Karen Black is like in a blonde wig. She's got these tight red shorts on
God.
and like this white blouse.
She looks like, someone that's partying in the 70s.
Oh, yeah. She's
having a good time.
Yeah, she's bopping, dude, for sure.
Polar opposite of her sister again.
She's smoking cigarettes. She's drinking.
Even her room looks like more up to date of what you would expect someone in her age group to have in the 70s.
She keeps throwing like sexual innuendos at the doc and stuff.
Yeah, she puts her arm or her leg on his leg at some point.
It was funny because like Karen Black was actually like trying to flirt with the actor.
Really? Like fuck with him?
Yeah. Like that's how she portrayed the character.
Yeah, like make him uncomfortable. Well, it works.
Yeah. She was like, I wonder if she didn't say this exactly, God rest her soul, but she was like, she basically was like, I wonder if I gave him a boner when I was doing this.
The pencil was up. But yeah, he kind of rushes out of the door like, yeah, okay, well, let me know if Millie comes out of her room. She's locked in there or something, I guess. I'll come back.
Oh, because Millicent was like, oh, yeah, Therese trashed my room. And he's like, did you trash Millicent's room? She's like, yeah, I fucking did. I fucking threw everything all over the place.
Right.
She's probably cleaning it. She's cleaning it up right now. She locked herself in.
So when the doctor leaves, we go back to Millie in this room, supposedly, sitting down with the diary like, oh, she's out there banging on my door. Yeah. Oh, now she's drunk on her bed.
Yeah, but before he leaves, she's like, do I make you nervous, Doc? Huh?
Oh, yeah, yelling at him.
You want to fuck, Doc? And she's like, do you like girls or not, Doc? What's the deal? And he's like, oh, shit.
Yeah. And then like the next day or sometime later, it's not exactly clear. We get this like little side scene, I guess, for lack of a better term, with this little girl and her broken doll.
Yeah, this is actually Dan Curtis's daughter.
Okay, well, that might explain it then. I mean, I like this part of it. It just seems kind of inserted into the story.
Tracy,
yes.
Is her name. Well, it's here to solidify because of the twist that we're going to get to, it's here to solidify the fact that there's two different people living in this home because Tracy's like, oh, Millie, Miss Millicent, your sister came out here and she ripped my dolly's head off and broke it.
Yeah, like in a manic episode, screaming, right? Yeah. I guess to send that point home
because she was being too loud or something.
Yeah. With her doll.
With her doll. And then Millicent's like, oh, I'm so sorry about that. I'm going to buy you a new doll. So she like bought her a new doll.
The next time I'm in town.
Yeah. So after that, I guess Millicent decides she's had enough and decides to use Therese's own medicine against her by doing some voodoo.
Well, yeah, because doing that to that little girl, that was the last
straw.
So yeah, she goes into her books and she starts just magically knowing how to use it, no pun intended.
Well, she's reading it and she's making this voodoo doll and all this shit.
She pops in the Betamax tape of Child's Play. Again, not out yet, but MDU. She's got it somehow.
And she calls up Ramsey. She's like, hi, Dr. Ramsey. Just wanted to call you to tell you that your advice is no longer needed and we're through and thank you very much. Goodbye.
And Dr. Ramsey, unbeknownst to us, is literally having a heart attack.
He's like, oh, shit, what is this broad doing?
All right, because he knows the truth and he like fucking rushes over there like 90 miles an hour in his little car. And, he even goes through like a side door because the front door is locked when he arrives.
So he gets there and Therese is on the ground dead with this voodoo doll next to her and this pin through the heart.
Right.
And he ends up calling the cops. And he's like, oh, I got a dead body here, blah, blah, blah. So the whole twist of this, the guys come in to pick her up and put her on the gurney. And it's pretty good. It's a pretty good twist. The doc like wipes off her makeup and then pulls the wig off. And you're like, oh, shit, it was a girl. She had a split personality or multiple personality disorder.
Right, the worst case of dual personality I've ever seen.
Bum, bum, bum.
I feel like this one worked a lot better on paper. I do think Karen Black's doing a phenomenal job playing these two parts. I just feel like the twist was way too obvious to me. I was like halfway through the segment like, oh, well, they're never seen on camera together. she's complaining about this person's complaining about this person. Just to me, it felt like a Clark Kent Superman situation too soon. But I know it's like, once you kind of put those dots together, it's impossible not to.
Yeah. So
it's not the movie's fault. That was just how I ended up landing with it.
I think it's a great character study for Karen Black as an actress.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. She plays both parts really, really well. But, I mentioned something to you before we started recording about this story in particular. This is a page-long story.
Oh, my God.
Okay? A literal page long, and what it originally was the doctor writing like a letter or like his
Dracula style,
like his entry. Right, and then it ends with the banger, and you're like, oh shit.
Huh, that's kind of interesting.
So I think it's kind of a small feat that they turned it into this longer piece. I'm not sure why they chose this, but again, I think they might have chosen it because it was a chance for Karen to play two different characters of the same character opposite each other, like two drastically different ones in one thing.
Yeah, because they don't have like a lot of money, I would imagine. Yeah. And again, it is 75. Like they're not going to be able to do too many split screen kind of things. So it is kind of, they're forced almost to do like, well, they're just not in the shot together because that's just the way we have to do this.
I think it works though, because you're like, oh, they're just twins.
It does.
You know what I mean?
I wish I had come to that conclusion, but I don't know, because that's what they want you to think. I think there was just a point, I forget, there was a line of dialogue or something that happens. I think it might have been the doctor's reaction kind of gave it away too much for me.
Oh, okay.
Again, I'm kind of looking for these things a little bit, but
I was trying to separate myself from it because I knew the twist, and I'm like I was trying to watch it like I didn't know it. Yeah, objectively. I don't think they give it away too much, but I mean, you kind of put the pieces together more quickly than you should be able to.
Sure, and I know like it's obviously subjective, and like even when we've done Tales from the Darkside episodes or Creepshow or other stuff like Tales from the Hood, even there's stuff where it's like, to me it seemed obvious, or to you or even Chris, and then I'll read the comments, or one of us it might have a different opinion. So I know sometimes that just happens where it's like, oh man, I picked up on that, and someone else will be like, right, no fucking clue.
Yeah, and I guess it just depends on the perception of when you're watching it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And what kind of mood you're in, because like sometimes it even comes down to like whether we like a movie or not. Sometimes it depends on like what kind of mood we're in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So not the best out of the three, but I still think it's fine. It's the middle spot. Like you had a really good story.
Yes.
You got the middle, and then we go right back up for the peak of this film.
Spoilers, I agree, but yes, it is easily the weakest, I think, honestly, out of all these segments. Maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit
Between both movies, you think? I mean, we could save that. I was going to save that for later, but we'll get to it.
We can expand on that.
We'll expand on it later.
That's my first thought.
Yeah,
shot from the hip.
Yeah, it's the least spooky.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah. I don't think there's nothing supernatural about it at all. And neither is the first story.
The first one I want it to be, but it's definitely not. But the second one, no, it's just this woman has a mental health problem, and unfortunately it ends in her death because the doctor can't get there in time. Yeah. He knows it's gonna end bad, but there's nothing he can fucking do about it. He doesn't have a teleporter.
I guess, like, why was she not put away?
Well, because then there's no story, you know.
No, I know that, but he's a bad doctor. Or maybe she had like so much money.
Maybe she's like Christian Bale. She said she was taking the pills for like equilibrium, but she was actually spitting him into the toilet, flushing him.
No Prosium, dude. That's what kept the split going.
She could have used a fucking Prosium, actually, now that you mention it. Or now that we mention it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, insert her into that film. She would actually be alive to this day.
Maybe.
She wouldn't be allowed to have a fucking voodoo doll or any of that shit in her house.
Oh, no way. She's way too promiscuous to be in that. Only Millicent would survive in that fucking totalitarian bullshit.
She needs the Prosium, because she's got to be full Millicent at all times, or else she's fucked. Well, figuratively and literally.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty good. Yeah. But this next one's very, very good.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the third story, Amelia. We got Julie, Millicent, Therese, and Amelia is the last one.
Which I do like the actual naming convention, just the name of the women characters or lead characters.
I think it's cool, the way that they do that. And there's really no alluding to what the story is.
Not at all.
Which is a cool thing. Like when we get to the second one, we'll talk about it, but it's just a name. You have no idea what the story is, so it doesn't prepare you for anything, which I think is another good way where it kind of gut punches you for a couple of the twists.
That is a good point, because you don't know what you're getting into literally at all.
If you never saw this before and you were like, oh, Amelia, would you ever think in a million years that she would have to face off against a fucking Zuni doll?
No, surely. You hear Ghostbusters, you could probably figure some things out, but you're right. If it was called Egon, you'd be like, what the fuck am I watching? Is this about Egon Sheila?
It's called Dr. Venkman.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Now you'd really be confused.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is based off Richard Matheson's story Prey, which is that's the only one that I had in my anthology book and that I could find because I didn't see it online.
Okay.
So I read Prey.
Not to be confused with the sequel/requel to Predator.
Yes, has nothing to do with that.
Imagine if it was like actually like a fucking Predator adjacent thing all this time.
I wouldn't hate it.
Like the Predators have Zuni dolls, like they some kind of sci-fi magic makes them real.
On second, then I'm going to pass on that
Yeah,
one.
no,
Yeah,
me
yeah,
too.
yeah.
It's funny as an aside, but not as a movie. Yeah, it'd be kind of bad.
So this one, Matheson insisted on doing the screenplay for because he knew
He must have respected what he wrote.
Well, this is his favorite story. He wanted to make sure that it came out just like the book or the story or the short story rather.
I respect that.
So Bill did the screen adaptions of the first two stories, and Matheson insisted to do this one, and I was shocked how close the short story is to the actual film version of it. Like we're talking like Hellraiser levels of closeness. Like Clive Barker did the original Hellraiser screenplay.
Hellbound. Oh, the screenplay.
The screenplay for Hellraiser. And it was just like Hellbound Heart.
Okay.
Yeah. Like,
minor changes, but mostly names.
Minor changes, but it was like pretty faithful to what it was.
I think, what was it? The dad's name's different, and Kirsty's a friend, not his daughter. That's like, other than that, it's almost verbatim.
Yeah, other than that, it's verbatim. And I think the changes that are made there make a little bit more sense anyway.
Sure, yeah, but
and they were his decisions to make.
And it's one of those, is what you're saying. Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I don't always endorse when a writer wants to adapt their own thing. I mean, King does it a lot, and to mild success.
Well, he's also gone on record saying that he wishes he never made Maximum Overdrive, and I think that's maybe a step too far, but I am not Stephen King. I was not the man put in the chair making the movie.
It's also the thing of, like, Maximum Overdrive has a total bad rap, or had a bad rap, and that movie's fucking great, and now it's become, like, a huge cult classic. Had a huge resurgence over the past
fucking fun
5 or 10 years, yeah.
It's got a giant green goblin monster truck.
That's the best part.
Come on.
And Emilio Estevez.
How Marvel signed off on that shit, I'll never know. Maybe they didn't.
Who knows?
I'm sure there's a story. It's got to be out there.
So yeah, Karen Black, once again, plays Amelia. And she is a 30-something that lives by herself in this apartment that she's leasing. And she comes in with this little box. And she's kind of talking to herself a little bit, and she's like, oh, this is going to be such a great present and stuff, because she had bought this Zuni fetish doll for her boyfriend, who is an anthropologist. So it's like a present for his birthday, because she's going out that night to dinner with him, and she's so excited because she's like, I found this thing, he's going to love it. It's like from an African tribe. Or what have you.
I think it was actually South American when I looked it up. The Zuni were originally from South America.
Oh, was it?
I want to even say Mexico, but don't quote me on that. Definitely South American though.
The Anasazi are from Mexico.
Whatever it was, I looked it up whenever I watched it. Either way.
The what do you call? Richard Matheson says in passing that he had read a headline or something in a newspaper, and that's where he gleaned it. That's where he gleaned it from.
To be fair, Richard Matheson didn't have Wikipedia at his disposal.
Well,
he's going through fucking encyclopedias and word of mouth and hoping it's accurate.
Yeah, we're talking about a time where you couldn't just Google, like, where is Zuni from Africa or no.
But I think what I did read specifically, and if I'm wrong, this won't be in the episode, but I think it was South America from a long time ago. like 500 years or some shit. It was a long time.
Siri, where did the Zuni tribe originate? New Mexico. The Zuni are a Pueblo people located in New Mexico.
Pueblo, yeah, I did look that up.
Interesting. Siri, are the Zunis an African tribe? Zulu is the tribe in South Africa.
Yeah, that's the one that was in the James Bond movie and everything.
So maybe
I think with the golden gun.
Well, Richard is not
with
Samedi
and all that shit.
Well, Baron Samedi. Richard Matheson isn't with us anymore to confirm or deny that he might have fucked up and wrote Zuni instead of Zulu.
Yeah, that might have, if that's what he meant. I mean, now we're really getting down splitting hairs here. But yeah, okay, so New Mexico.
Maybe he read it and they misprinted it. They misprinted the I for an L.
It's incredibly creepy regardless. We're getting heavy into the weeds here. Just this is the kind of shit that's interesting to me.
I just thought it was funny because what's interesting to me is because I thought it was a straight up African tribe, and if it wasn't, because it's supposed to be like an ancient.
It is ancient. It's supposed to be like hundreds of years ago, or if not thousands.
It's got to be thousands.
It's an extinct tribe.
Extinct tribe. So I thought that was interesting. So that's kind of a bummer that it's not African. Not that it's
just not what you thought it was necessarily, or maybe even that Richard thought it was.
Yeah, I just wish it was more accurate, because if you're gonna fucking pull it right.
So like I was saying earlier, I don't think it ever necessarily steps over that line. It's not really, that's not the point of this at all. It's just, it's a creepy fucking doll from that time period, and they add like the mysticism of the time of, you know, this, I mean, they literally go in and there's a scroll that Karen Black pulls out that says that there's a spirit in this fetish doll, and the chain around it keeps it intact so that they don't basically come together and then allow this doll to move around with this this hunter's soul controlling it, more or less.
Yeah, so you want to make sure you keep that chain around. This little guy right here needs to stay on that doll.
He who kills, Joe.
He who kills.
Which is also, I guess, is that another name for this creature?
He's the Zuni fetish doll, but he is he who kills, quote unquote.
That is some scary shit.
That's fucking bone chilling, man. Like, look at this thing. And then that's what it's titled under. And then on the fucking scroll, it says if this chain comes off, he is going to be reunited with a fucking crazy cannibalistic hunter soul.
Let us know in the comments. Connor McGraw, former co-host of this show, loves to shit on these little puppets going after people. He always says he's going to kick Chucky. Kick this fucking thing, Connor. Let me know how your feet look afterwards.
He's going to take your fucking toes off there, champ.
Because Karen Black knows all about that. We'll mention it in a second. But first, she's got to call Mom.
Yeah, so she gets a call from her mom, and like right out of the gate, this is really great storytelling. I love this because we don't really know much about Amelia, and we get it all right here.
No, you do, yeah.
Because she has this conversation with her mother about, you know, how she's overbearing and how she's kind of oppressed by her mother because her mother wants to keep her from growing.
Locked down, yeah.
And locked down because so
well, it's like a classic case of helicopter parenting, but to the extreme where it's giving this woman extreme stress and anxiety.
Yeah, so her mother's basically like gaslighting her. Yeah. That she's a bad person, that she's not spending the night with her. And instead going out with her boyfriend. But like Amelia had just left home. She just got this apartment for herself. She's being independent. Right. And that it's a very freeing thing that if you're not allowed to do that, can seriously fuck you up.
Oh yeah.
Right?
And it's freeing regardless, but that adds additional layers to it.
But like then that's a parent problem where you know they don't want you to leave because then they don't know what to do with themselves, you know, and that's kind of that empty nest syndrome kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Which that's not a good relationship to have at all. So that's what's going on here. So she's gaslighting her, making her feel really bad for abandoning her, and she's like, "Mom, I saw you 3 times this week. I'm just going out once for this guy's birthday."
Well, because apparently every Friday they meet up to watch the movie of the week,
or go out on the ABC movie of the week,
literally.
Yeah,
and that's why she's pissed because it's like, and you know, Karen Black is acting her ass off, and I did read that I don't know if she contributed to this scene or she acted it differently because you said that the dialogue was almost verbatim, so I don't know how much truth there is to that.
The dialogue is almost verbatim in the story.
Right.
As far as I read it, she might have added some stuff to it.
Maybe the way it was presented.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're reading the book, when I read the book, I guess I saw it that way, but I don't know if I saw it that way because I know how it plays out in the movie. But like, if I were to have somebody act and have this,
it made sense.
That's how I would have them do
That's
it.
hard though. Anytime you read a book or see a movie and you're like going back to the other medium, it's hard to separate the two.
I mean, it's still there is my point. So like, she's just doing a really good job of interpreting it and doing the body language and things.
It is so funny to me that we talked about this earlier, how she didn't even want to do this fucking movie. And it is kind of like you said, it really showcases many factions of her
her range.
Her range, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Exactly. Facets of her acting range.
100%. I think this is her least favorite story as well.
Well, that's a shame.
Yeah, because she's like, oh, it's a fucking doll. Okay.
But then again, she does Ooga Booga, plus a bunch of other shit that I didn't write down.
Well, that's in like 2000.
Well, that's when she needed money, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think she finally embraced the the horror aspect of her career by that time.
You're probably
right. We also forgot to mention she's Mama Firefly in House with 1,000 Corpses.
Oh, yeah, that was another big one. I forgot about that. And I guess she's in the second one, too, she gets taken out in the beginning or she gets arrested or something.
Different actress.
Oh, it is. Did she die?
She passed away.
Oh, okay. I do remember that now that you mention it.
So her mother's just driving her up a fucking wall and like guilt tripping her and all this shit.
She's like grabbing her neck. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, it's really like, I was like, oh, God, like I've fucking been there. You know what I mean? Where you're getting made to feel like terrible about something when you shouldn't feel that way. You know what I mean? It's not your fault.
Oh yeah, the
kind
guilt
of thing. It's the guilt thing, and it's really shitty to be like that. And like she yells at her, and she's like, "I'm not yelling." She's just really frustrated. And and her mother just doesn't even resolve it, just fucking hangs up on her.
Well, because she starts explaining to her about the Zuni doll. Like, I got this doll. It's really cool.
It's because she changes the subject, and she's like, yeah, I got it for my boyfriend. And she's like, well, I've been seeing him for a few months.
Well, there's that,
and
too.
she's like, well, I was going to tell you, that kind of thing.
But specifically, I bring that up because as she's explaining what the doll is, Mom, I guess, gets bored, and you just hear, like, the dial tone. She must have hung up.
Just
it's like,
clicks.
Okay.
Oh, that's something we didn't mention. You don't hear the mom at all.
No.
And that's the best part about it, and that really...
Could have very easily been a Christmas Story thing where it's played up for comedy. Oh, thank God it isn't.
Or like Charlie Brown or something. But,
oh, God. Imagine putting that in, editing that in. That would just change the whole tone of the scene.
But again, it's a good testament to her acting because it's really great. It's a really great piece. I think it's the best part of the whole thing in terms of the acting bit. So, genuine fetish doll, Zuni hunting fetish. Supposed to be a hunting spirit inside. There's the gold chain that we mentioned. Should it be removed, the spirit and the doll will become one.
That golden chain, by the way, must be held on by a fucking piece of gum or what's that shit you use to clean your teeth?
Floss.
The word's escaping me. It is like fishing line.
Yeah.
Fishing line's tougher than this thing.
50-pound test, baby.
You put this thing down. This is like how I broke my dab rig. I put it on the table a little too hard and the top broke off. This thing she puts it on the table. Literally, that did happen.
Well, she gets pissed and slams it down.
And that's what happened to me. It was a lot more expensive on my end than well, actually, you know what? I ended up better off. I just bought a new one. She unleashed a fucking demon.
Wait a second. Did evil bong, did that come together and to the dab became the evil dab and ran around your house after?
I would have smoked that evil dab.
Yeah, but then you would have got transported inside the evil dab and you would have had to deal with bong creatures and stuff.
The evil dab rig. That's a movie Full Moon's gonna put out now.
Well, it's evil bong.
Yeah.
That was the plot of evil bong.
Oh, God. Okay, I got you. No, that did not happen. I did not open, the bong did not open, the smoke cloud did not get me, and I did not get, have teeth grow out of my mouth.
Tommy Chong did not need to save you or anything?
No.
Okay.
But yes, much like when I broke that, I put it down too hard, she puts it down too hard, and this fucking thing just falls off like a chicken wing and just hits the ground. And she's like, I gotta take a bath. Don't worry about that chain. What could possibly happen? She
goes to take a bath and she comes out and she calls Arthur. She finally folds to her mother.
Boyfriend, yeah,
she folds to her mom and she's like, hey, Arthur, by the way, can we just celebrate your birthday tomorrow?
Any other day? Friday's booked with Mom.
And he's
my birthday's only once a year, but okay.
He's like, oh, Christ, you're going to, you don't hear him, but he's like, oh, Christ, you got to deal with your mom again and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yeah, I know it's my mother. It's just one night. It's just Friday. We could go out tomorrow. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And she's like, okay, bye.
Again, you're just kind of reading her reaction to know how the conversation went. And she's like, just me another night on Friday.
Hooray for Friday.
So then she takes these 2 steaks that she kind of barely prepares, puts 2 specks of salt and pepper on it, throws it in the oven.
She walks in the room and she realizes the fucking doll's not on the table. And she's like, guess you fell off the table there, kiddo.
Yeah, just jumped off. Let me look under this couch. She starts sticking her hand under the spear. Sharp as a fucking tack, apparently.
Yeah, pokes her under the fucking finger. In the story, the spear tip breaks off under her fingernail.
Oh my God.
And that's gotta hurt.
That's painful.
This whole scene though, Child's Play ripped this off verbatim. Tom Holland.
Oh yeah.
This was an homage to Child's Play or to Trilogy of Terror and Child's Play when Chucky falls underneath the couch and she goes to feel for him and stuff.
Holy shit, you're right. Yeah. I was just thinking about the doll vision we're about to get, the baby's day out vision, but actually from the baby's perspective, not everybody else's perspective where they can't see below their knees, but it's actually POV this time.
This thing is smaller than Chucky. It's smaller than the baby. Chucky's 3 feet tall.
It's more like Puppet Master. Eventually would do this kind of stuff.
How big is that? 2.5? Yeah, 2.5, 3 feet tall. He's 18 inches, give or take.
Puppet Master's a better comparison.
Puppet Master, 100%.
Because she's looking for this thing. She can't find it anywhere. And she just kind of sees out of the corner of her eye something turn a corner real fast. She's like, what the fuck? So she goes kind of investigating. She doesn't know what the hell's happening. And
you hear the pitter patter of feet run by. She gets up and she goes in the kitchen. She's looking around and she goes over the knives and the smallest knife has been taken out of the knife holder.
Right. Yeah, that is important.
And this is where you hear the patter again and she turns around and you see that one of the creepiest things, I've mentioned this before on the show, that's one of the freakiest things to me. You just see the tail end of this thing go around the corner and run away out of sight. And you're like, what the fuck was that?
I mean, of course, we've already said 1,000 times. I just said it. Child's Play comes to mind. But
absolutely.
even Pet Sematary with the little kid at the end.
Oh, where Gage is... Yeah.
I mean, it's classic at that point, but it's cool to see. Like, I wonder if this is one of the first films. I mean, it's probably not. Stuff in the 30s and 50s was doing this too. But with this style, like, little thing running past the screen quickly.
Well, I'll tell you what. Before that, Phantasm is 79?
Yeah. I always forget that 70s.
I think Phantasm 79, I think. But like that always freaks me out too when the little dwarves like go around the headstones in the graveyard.
Every time a movie uses it. I mean, I'm sure there's bad examples, but all those are great ones.
Yeah. So she's creeping around because she's like freaked out. She's like freaking herself out, right? She's like, it's nothing, whatever, blah blah blah. So she goes into the living room. And she's at one end, and then all of a sudden the light goes out on the other end.
She's just like talking to herself, like, "No, it just blew out. It burned out. It's nothing.
Damn thing burned out." She goes over to it, and she's fucking with it. All of a sudden, you hear like this screaming, and she's getting stabbed in the legs, and she falls down.
Yeah, this thing just is screaming at her. And just stabbing the ever-living shit out of her fucking
It's
feet.
like running after her. It's got this crazy fucking voice that it's doing.
I don't think they talked like that 500 years ago, so that might be my other criticism. But hey, it's creepy as shit. Yeah, a little stereotypical, a little on the nose there, but okay.
So Walker Edmonston does the voice of
it's creepy
the Zuni
as fuck.
doll.
Don't get me wrong.
It's creepy as hell. He's done a ton of voices for shows. Especially like animated stuff. He worked on Sid and Marty Krofft stuff like Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, H.R. Puffin stuff. He does the voice of Dr. Blinky for H.R. Puffin.
Oh my god, that's a deep
owl that talks like this. He's Dr. Blinky.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite H.R. Puffin stuff characters.
I don't think I've seen H.R. Puffin stuff since someone brought it in as a goof to woodshop in high school.
Oh really? I love that show.
I remember enjoying what I saw, but that's the last time I thought about it, and it was definitely a weed joke at the time. Unbeknownst to our woodshop teacher.
With Witchy Poo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He also did Orson the Vulture and Boris Spider for H.R. Puffin stuff.
Okay.
But he's in the MDU already.
Of course he is. Was it Hug a Bunch, Joe?
Well, no, it's funny because we have already mentioned it during this episode.
Oh, really?
He is the police chief, Dennis Warren, in Scared to Death.
Huh.
Now that is pretty funny.
Wow.
Considering that, like, that's the other double episode that we've done.
Yeah. That is crazy. I didn't even think to look that up.
Yeah.
Because I've looked up several of these actors are in different movies, but that's crazy.
I just saw Zuni finished all voice, and I was like, oh, shit. So I just wanted to see what he did.
That is very specific.
Crazy. So he's like a kind of a prolific voice actor, but I thought it was funny that he was in Scared to Death as well. So
that is funny.
So this thing's running after her. She slams the door. She locks herself in the bedroom, and she falls down, and she's grabbing the phone, and I love it, too.
She calls, like, the operator.
She calls the cops. She's like, I don't know where I am. Just call the police. And she's all cut up on her hands and her legs and shit.
Good makeup effects here.
It's really good, especially for a TV movie. Yeah. Considering.
And the camera angles, again, like, I know we kind of are beating it to death here a little bit, but these POV shots, it's not all just this thing running after, which is incredibly well done, but it's a lot of shots before you actually realize, I mean, the audience kind of knows, but before she realizes what's happening, of just this angle from, like, you know, Earthworm's viewpoint, or what, I forget the term for that, but like from the ground up.
Worm's eye, yeah.
Worm's eye, yeah. And it's like, that's just kind of cool foreshadowing. I mean, this is kind of a truncated piece because it's part 3 of this anthology, but you know, it's interesting that they leave a little time to breathe in those few minutes leading up to the chaos.
Yeah, and it's funny too because like the doll, much like Bruce the Shark for Jaws, the doll never fucking worked and was always broken. And like
you could never tell.
One of the funny stories was that Dan Curtis would get pissed off that it wasn't working, and our buddy Billy Coyne, who's a fan of the show, and actually Karen Black herself said most of the time the doll didn't even work, so they just fucking like threw it at her. They just picked up the doll and fucking threw it
if it breaks
because it wouldn't work.
Maybe they'll fix it when they throw it
because they had like a rig for it where it would like run through because it was like a soundstage that was built up and there was somebody underneath running the doll. But each time they did it, like a fucking arm would fly off or the thing would break.
Elf! Dude, Elf could have saved the production,
dude.
They should have left him in the back seat.
There was one point where somebody was puppeteering the doll. It was like a father-son team. Yeah. And he was running the doll and he fucking whacked his head on a pipe that was underneath the floor and fucking knocked himself cold.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I could never tell, much like Alf, I could never tell that there was just fucking platforms around here. It's really well done.
But the case in point is that's kind of the reason you don't see it much, because it's of limited mobility. And I think it's scarier that you don't see it as much because
like Jaws, yeah.
It opens the fucking door. The doorknob turns and the door opens. You don't actually see it happen.
No, but there is kind of a funny visual. One of the times it opens the door, it's like hanging there like, ha ha!
Yeah. But it like you hear it run around the bed.
Yes.
And it's like, you see it like crawling up the side of the bed, dude, and it's like head pokes over. It's just
Puppet Master, man.
Really creepy.
They watched this one, man. Oh, yeah. Charles Band had this on repeat.
Charlie Band was loving it.
And Puppet Master's better for it.
Yeah. No, 100%.
And like, to your point, though, even though you're telling me and the audience, because I didn't know, that this puppet was broken, they still do some interesting stuff with it. They have like the spear in the mouth. It looks like it's actually moving around after her.
Yeah.
Constantly attacking under the door with the knife, screaming.
But I guess that's my point, because like she goes into the bathroom after it's on the bed, and now she's in the bathroom and she's holding the door shut because she knows that it can open doors. Yep. It's sticking the knife under the door. That's some of the creepiest shit.
That is the creepiest
And again,
part.
I think a Child's Play again, where she locks herself in the bathroom and she's got the door closed. Albeit,
well, that might actually beat it. But
Chucky stabs through the door. Well, yeah, they one up it, but it's kind of the same kind of thing.
The homages, once you see this film, are a lot more evident. I still think Child's Play is an all-timer, but it's hard to not be like, no, I'm not saying you are. I'm just adding to your point that it's always interesting when you see these films, the inspirations where like Kill Bill is a great movie, don't get me wrong, but it's also interesting to go back to like Lady Snowblood and see, this is where Quentin got the idea.
Yeah. Especially for a lot of parts of that film.
Well, sure, I'm just as a comparison.
Yeah. Well, like the Oren Ishii stuff is like, that's 100%.
100%, yes, true.
So it ends up opening the bathroom door. And it runs at her, and she like grabs a towel and like wraps it up and like tries to drown it in the bathtub,
like Elves.
Yeah,
Agamemnon, or whoever his name is, the cat.
Agamemnon. Yeah.
Mom saw this movie. She got ideas.
She should have stuck it in the toilet.
Yeah, she's like, I saw Trilogy of Terror. That's a great idea. Way to get rid of something. Toilet. Yeah, she uses the bathtub.
Take some tips from Peter Weller and like duct tape the fucking toilet shut.
The rats from of unknown origin, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, she tries to drown it in the bathtub and runs off. And I love how this thing just crawls out of the tub, just like, nope, that didn't do anything.
It's a great shot because it's this far shot of this thing crawling out of the bathtub.
It's creepy as hell.
It's creepy as hell, dude.
The cinematography, again, is very good throughout this entire feature, but this segment, I don't know if it's the same person. I know there's more than one person typically involved, but the main cinematographer, I don't know if they did all three parts or they just had a specific person for this, but they knocked it out of the park.
I think
the angles, the Dutch angles, the POV of this thing running at her is just creepy and well done.
I know the second movie has like a not a B team, but a second unit.
Yes.
I don't know if they had a second unit for Trilogy of Terror. They had, there's insert shots and stuff here. Like whenever you see the doll and there's like a black background, that's like an insert that they had to shoot because the doll wasn't working on set. So they just shot it against black and just slid it in there. But they're super quick and it totally works.
I didn't even think about it, but that's a good point.
She locks herself in the closet this time.
Oh, God.
And it's trying to open the door again.
Halloween vibes.
And it's screaming and blah, blah, blah. She's got one hand on the door and the other hand grabs a suitcase, dude. And she fucking lets go of the door. The doll flies back. She opens the suitcase. Boom. Traps it in the fucking suitcase.
Love it. It's exactly what you do.
So good. And then like tosses it across the room.
Should have tossed it out the window, but he doesn't know.
Oh, so there was a scene that she said, or she tries to open the window to throw it out.
Oh, and it's like locked,
and
maybe.
It's like locked. Yeah. Karen Black mentions in the commentary track that like there was more terrifying scenes that were like cut out. And I could have swore she said something about a window. But anyway.
I know that they don't ever actually show it, but now you're seeing it where she tries to leave her apartment and like I guess the Zuni fetish doll like fucked up the lock and actually like bent the lock. So now it's like bent on itself, so she can't actually push the door open or pull it open.
Her hands are all cut up too. So what happens is she goes to try to leave, and the doll starts cutting itself out of the suitcase.
Well, while she's trying to break the lock. Yeah.
Another like totally iconic scene, man. So she goes and she's trying to grab the fucking knife, and every time she grabs the knife, it's like turning it and like cutting her fingers. So her fingers are all cut up.
I mean, what else do you really do there besides just smash it with a fucking pot or something?
Who the fuck knows? It ends up like she tries to get out and she's like trying to open the door, but her hands are all fucked up. And the doll comes out and its head is sticking out of the case. She takes an ice pick and she starts like stabbing the shit out of it in its head.
I thought it was finished for a second there. Even the movie got me, but then I, came back to my senses as she started to hook the latch. Is like, okay, I see where this is going, dummy. Jumps right out at her, starts biting the shit out of her.
She thinks it's dead. It's just such a great scare.
It is still, even if you think it's coming.
Comes out and gets her. So she's falling all over the place. She ends up like throwing him off and like going into the kitchen.
And first it gets her arm really good. Then it's on her fucking neck.
Yeah, but that's such a good reveal because you think it's like stabbing her in the leg, and she's like, ah! And then she turns to the camera, and this thing's got its teeth sunk into her neck, dude. Oh my
god! Again, TV movie, 1975. Yeah. There's not a lot of blood, but it's where it counts, and it's like, whoa,
really good. So she ends up like ripping it off and throwing it into the oven and like shutting it, and she's got to like put her foot up on the counter to keep the door shut.
Yeah.
And this fucking thing is burning alive in the oven.
And it's burning just like you would expect a wooden fetish doll to burn. I know, kind of a simple effect. I'm sure they just threw the fucking puppet in there, but it looks like what you would expect.
It looks really good. It's on fire. There's a lot of, again...
the black smoke.
Again... Child's Play,
with
Chucky in the fireplace.
Oh, well, yeah, the first one especially.
Yeah. Specifically. It's just fun to see that kind of thing, trying to get out and he's on fire.
There's actually less false finishes here. Yeah. Again, less time to work with, but
there's black smoke billowing out of the oven and stuff,
which I guess could be interpreted as like the soul of the Zuni warrior, the hunter,
or the wood burning.
I guess that's what it actually is. But when she opens that door, she gets blasted with this smoke, fire, and God knows what else. Oh. I thought it was the soul of the Zuni warrior.
Well, it is. Oh. Scares the shit out of her and like screams, and she's like, ah! Yeah. Oh, dude, like total.
If this was made today, you would have seen the scene of it going in her mouth or some shit.
That's a full Linnea Quigley from Night of the Demon smokes inhale, dude.
Conjuring even did something like that. Bathsheba barfs in the fucking woman's mouth.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Ugh.
So yeah, she nonchalantly goes into the bedroom. It's like a fade out and a fade in, TV style. She picks up the phone and
shot from the back also.
Yeah, she calls her mother. She's like, "Hi, Mom. It turns out I'm not going out with the doc tonight, so we can have our movie date together. Okay, I'll see it. You know what? Why don't you come here? Okay?
Yeah. I heard the Midnight Hour's playing on ABC.
It's the ABC Halloween movie.
LeVar Burton.
Yeah, and Sherry Belafonte. It's gonna be great. Go check out that episode." So she hangs up the phone and she goes over to the door and she rips the fucking deadbolt off the door.
Right, that she was struggling with before.
She just rips it. She's like rips it twice and then just pulls the whole thing off. And you're like, what the fuck?
She's got super strength now.
Yeah. So then she goes and she squats down and she's got this giant like butcher knife and she's like slamming it on the ground. She's like squatting and like slamming it on the ground and like spinning it. Then that iconic right on that Kino Lorber Blu-ray cover, that iconic smile, and she's got the mouth full of sharp teeth. So the Zuni has jumped from the doll now into her and possessed her.
Right, and brought some of its physical features, I guess, with it.
The sharpened teeth, I guess.
Sharpened teeth, that's part of the curse, Joe.
It's a banger, dude. Like
that was further down on the scroll. She didn't read that far down.
Also will get sharp teeth if you are possessed by a doll.
Definitely don't go to a dentist and have it removed because then you'll get in trouble on your home planet later and be forced to garfle the garfnax.
Snarfle the garfunk. Yeah.
Cone heads.
So apparently the teeth were added. Okay, so like originally they weren't going to shoot it, but it's conflicting because it's like, okay, I don't know if Dan Curtis did it or Karen Black did it because Karen says it was her idea.
Okay.
But Dan Curtis was dead by the time she did the commentary track, so it's one of those things.
Might
like
just be taking credit.
I'm not sure if it's Dan Curtis or Karen Black, but either way, it was a great way to end it and kind of add that little thing to it. And Richard Matheson fucking loved it. He loved that they did the teeth.
Okay, I mean,
part of it.
Clearly, also Dan Curtis loved it because he brings it back possibly in the future.
Well,
maybe a sequel, if you will,
in a tongue-in-cheek way. Right?
Kinda, actually. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. So that's the last one. I guess you want to just do the full thought of it as a whole now, or do you want to just finish up with our last thought of that and then
I mean, I could kind of do both at the same time.
Let's do it.
I think this is the best of the three. Mm-hmm. Definitely, like you said earlier, the first and third one are the best in this selection, too. I didn't like it as much as you, but it's definitely the weaker of the three for sure. Now, this is just like, I understand why it's iconic this many years removed. It still holds up. Again, there's a little part of me, and I don't really care as much because I do think it never really oversteps that boundary, but I do wonder what other people would think about that element of it. Just as an aside. But as far as the creep factor, the scary factor, this is very scary. Yeah. And I'm busting Connor's chops, and anybody else at home that's always, you hear this occasionally. People that they're into horror, but they don't get the child's plays. They don't get the puppet masters. If this thing came after you with a fucking butcher knife, I don't know what you're doing to stop it unless you got a bowling ball on hand or you just run out of the fucking room. This thing is fast and furiously stabbing you in the fucking foot. I don't know what you would even do.
And just screaming, dude.
Yeah,
and
throwing you off guard.
Not only that, it's got a mouthful of razor-sharp teeth.
Yeah, which then it's going to also use on you.
It's like Critter and Chucky in one.
Yes, literally. And just the whole movie, I guess, I liked it a lot. I might not be reaching for this one in the future, but I'm really glad I watched it. Like I said, especially with the Zuni fetish doll, there's like those things from movies that came later that now I'm like putting the puzzle together and saying, oh shit. And I love doing that on this show and just in life in general. Like, recently, I've been going through the Zatoichi movies because one of them is actually Blind Fury's based on it. So I want to get to it because I know we're going to cover that movie eventually.
The Rutger Hauer one.
And I want the fucking comparisons.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great.
I just love movies, but it's just interesting. And I'll expand on that maybe when I talk about my thoughts for part 2. But this is definitely on the shelf, I guess, just to get to that point.
Sure.
It's not high on the shelf. It's more of like one of those films that I'm glad exists. It's cool that Karen Black had this outlet. Dan Curtis had this outlet. Richard Matheson had this outlet. I just, as a made-for-TV movie, I think it actually is better for being made for TV. If this came out in theaters, I might be a little harsher on it, just from a production value standpoint. But I think from the little bit I know about how much they spent on this, it seems like they used their money wisely. And again, that cinematography, especially in part 3, is really top-notch, and that just kind of sells the whole anthology for me. And almost like, even though I don't like part 2 or the second segment that much, the third segment especially was so good, it just elevates the whole
100%.
Feature.
Yeah.
So yeah, shelf.
Yeah, dude. Shelf, definitely. I think it's really one of the best made-for-TV movies of all time.
I could see it.
I mean, this really gave birth to
it's
a
no
lot.
Tommy Knockers, Joe.
well, it's one of those things where, like, again, like, just as we're talking through it, it's kind of given birth to and inspired other people for other movies and things, especially like we mentioned. I mean, Child's Play, no doubt.
Oh yeah,
100%. But there's
Puppet Master for sure,
but
too.
Puppet Master for sure, and really kind of set the tone for little rubber monsters or or killer dolls in general. I feel like it kind of originates with the Zuni. In a contemporary sense.
Well, especially like you were saying earlier, like the way that it's featured too. It's not just the fact that it's adult, it's the way that it's the POV, the point of view stuff.
It's the POV stuff. It's the actual physicalness of this thing running around and stabbing and like actual physical force, like
coming at you,
having the strength of like a man inside it.
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
And like stabbing her and like opening doors and cutting itself out of the suitcase and all that fun stuff, man. A really scary threat for pint-sized peril. Like, it's like the OG, in my opinion. I think it's really good. I think Karen Black is fucking phenomenal. I think it's hilarious that she didn't want to do the movie because it basically solidified her career in the cult horror status, and that's how she went out. You know what I mean? She went out with a horror movie, and arguably made her mark with a horror movie. Right. So I think it's funny that, we're still talking about this movie so far down the line, not even since it came out. I mean, 50 years, but even after her passing, we're still talking about it. And I think that speaks volumes to horror and kind of the horror community and culture around that. So I think it's pretty powerful stuff.
It is powerful.
I just mean like it's an OG piece. Like this scared the shit out of our moms and dads, and in turn scared us, and it kind of stayed in the zeitgeist of horror movies and even spawned, the sequel here we're going to talk about in a second. I think it's great. It's one of the best made for TV horror movies of all time. 100%, if not the best. And it's an anthology.
Which I know you love. I mean, scores, not that I don't, but
scores extra points for me. I mean, clearly, Amelia is the best one with the Zuni doll. The second one is weaker, but I feel like I mentioned before, it's a nice roller coaster of like really it's an up and a down and an up, which is okay with me because it finishes strong, and I'm all right with that. It begins and ends strong.
Sure, and they are all actually very different from each other, which is what you want with an anthology, because sometimes if they get too samey, you feel like, why was this even an anthology at that point? So I'll give it that.
And the first and the second parts kind of get dangerously close.
I mean, there is a little bit there, I guess, as I'm saying that. But
with Millicent and Julie, like, kind of being the same kind of character.
But I think it doesn't go beyond that, because I was thinking that also, but the actual trajectory of the plot doesn't ever go there, so that's where it does differentiate.
Julie is Millicent and Therese cut in half. You know what I mean?
Like half of each person,
Right, exactly. And then Amelia is just its own ball of wax. So Trilogy of Terror is great, and if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Is it on Tubi? I don't know. I don't think it's streaming anywhere.
It's on YouTube. People just upload it because it's one of those. It's old, so people just get away with posting it without getting demonetized, I guess.
And I'm pretty sure both Kino Lorber DVDs, I think, are out of print, or definitely the first one is out of print. So usually Kino Lorber stuff gets uploaded to YouTube and HD. So I don't know. Check it out there. Try to buy it.
Yeah.
But if you can't, just stream it and watch it. It's great. I really like it.
And we're streaming. Right now it might not be on there, but when you come back to this video like months from now or a year from now, it might be.
It might be there.
If not, look, just do it. You'll find it.
Also, physical media
is king.
It's king. Always got it. You want to watch it? There it is. I can watch both of them. If I want to watch it on tape, I can. If I want to watch it on Blu-ray,
Any medium you want.
Any medium I want.
Get the 8-track out. Does that play video?
I'll get my 35mm printout.
Oh, there you go.
No, 8-track is audio. Like
I open myself up to that one.
It's like Betamax and VHS with 8-tracks and cassettes, because it's basically basically a cassette.
That makes more sense. 8-track player, gotcha.
But yeah, man, let's get into Trilogy of Terror 2.
From USA Pictures, 3 spine-tingling tales.
What is a Zuni fetish dog?
2 spellbinding hours.
I want to play a game, Mommy.
1 terrifying movie event.
I'm talking about the rats.
From horror master Dan Curtis.
Surprise, surprise.
Trilogy of Terror 2, a USA Pictures original. Premiering Wednesday night at 9, 8 Central. We dare you to watch.
So the first movie's made for ABC, right? Movie of the week. Trilogy of Terror 2 is made for the USA Network.
Yes, I did also see it was either produced or also had something to do with Showtime, but it did premiere on USA. I'm not sure. The Showtime connection was a little unclear online.
I wasn't sure if... I remember it. I remember watching it on USA.
Okay, yeah.
So
that was the consensus I saw. I don't know where Showtime comes in. Maybe they produced it, but that was another name I saw involved with this film.
Either they produced it or they did a deal with Showtime and they showed it on Showtime at some point.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
But like I remember vividly watching the trailer for this to be premiered on USA. Like I remember it like it was fucking yesterday. I was 9 years old in 1996. When this dropped. And like I mentioned earlier, like it was so cool because my mom was like, it's the sequel to Trilogy of Terror and the Zuni doll's back. We got to watch it. So I was like, oh, awesome. So I just remember that like so vividly, like the commercial and everything, and then like watching it. And it was a scary thing for me at 9 years old on USA.
Well, USA was the place to be in the 90s. We've talked about it before, but a lot of movies aired on USA. And wrestling.
Yeah, it was like right before Sci-Fi Channel.
Sci-Fi Channel was what, late 90s, mid 90s is when it came in?
Yeah, and Sci-Fi Channel wasn't what it was even into the later 90s and the 2000s when it first dropped, because it was like...
It kept changing, you're right.
It was mostly like Lost in Space reruns, Star Trek
Twilight Zone
reruns, Mystery Science Theater 3000 was on there. And USA was the place to go for horror stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I remember because they used to always show like the Child's Play movies. They had USA Up All Night.
Even Joe Bob, I think, had a show on there at some point.
Joe Bob had a show on there too, yeah.
Before or after TNT, I forget the order.
Or maybe it was TNT.
It might have been TNT. I could have my wires crossed.
I think TNT was Monster Vision and Joe Bob, and USA was Up All Night.
They were both hot at the same time. I mean, Joe Bob's been hot on and off for a long time, but
because like I was a kid, so I could only I was like 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
So like I caught that stuff sometimes, but not really.
Yeah. But this in particular was, like you said, one that you were waiting for. Mom was there waiting for it with you.
Yeah, this was like, we're gonna do this. You know what I mean? I remember like, again, like so vividly, like watching this on TV with her, and even the original 1990 It. Like I remember when that premiered. I didn't watch the whole thing because I was like really little.
Yeah,
but I remember like sitting on my dad's lap, and
like that element of
it.
And
him like hiding me behind a newspaper because like Pennywise was coming on the screen. But my mom wanted to watch it because it was like, because you couldn't rent it or like...
Well, especially when it first came out.
Or TiVo it. Like or TiVo, Jesus Christ, or like recorded or something.
TiVo's even old, but not that old.
Yeah, but you either watched it or you fucking didn't, and that was it, and you had to watch it.
Right, if you missed one part, you missed a lot of the story. Like, imagine watching the Stand miniseries, and you miss like one episode, you're fucked. You better have that VCR running.
I miss that. I miss having to be home to watch something.
I don't miss that, but I miss that things come out weekly. I think we're kind of finally going back to that, but there is something to that. You're not wrong. I just, everything drops at once was like novel for a couple of years, but I'm kind of like over that, especially with how many shows got canceled because of that.
We've talked about that before, and I fucking cannot stand that. I always hated that. I like having something to look forward to, and it also like let you watch something, and if somebody didn't see it, you didn't see it, right? Like, how do I put that?
It's like a watershed thing. Like Game of Thrones, the last big show I can think of that I was heavily invested in, where it's like, if you didn't see it, get away from the water cooler. Don't even bother going into work on Monday because everyone's fucking talking about this.
Or even social media. That's the worst. The worst part is that because anybody who watches that fucking thing immediately has to fucking blab about it.
Oh, spoilers. That's true, yeah.
And it's like, okay, who's this for? Are you happy you got your likes, douchebag?
Well, WandaVision's the ultimate with that when that was airing, but you're right. There is that element, unfortunately.
So I got a little bit of behind-the-scenes stuff for this. So Rick Stratton and Eric Allard are on effects here.
Oh, Stratton, wow, okay.
Yeah, so I thought it was cool because they really wanted... Because the Zuni is part of this. Obviously, he's on the cover. But it's like a sequel to the first story. But, instead of sculpting a whole new Zuni... They actually molded the head from an original mold from the first movie.
I saw that. That is kind of crazy. That even survived that long.
Yeah, and they did some mods to it, but then they totally did an overhaul with the mechanics and how the puppet works and stuff, which we'll talk about when we get there.
I was going to say, after you tell me the puppet was broken, essentially, in that first one, I could see why they might have made some upgrades.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get there, though. I just wanted to note that. Also, something that I thought was interesting was, so Kino Lorber releases both of these films on Blu-ray.
Okay.
Right? And they restored them in HD. But there was a notice on Trilogy of Terror 2 that I saw that was like, oh, we couldn't get all of the vault materials? I didn't notice a drop in quality anywhere, but there is a disclaimer there. So I don't know where exactly they ripped the source from, whether it was an interpositive or I don't know what.
Maybe if you frame by framed it or really got the magnifying glass out, it would have stood out.
Yeah, some of it was lost, so they had to piece it together, I guess, from master tapes or something. It wasn't like they don't go deep into it.
Yeah,
it was just like a disclaimer at the beginning. So I'm curious what that is exactly. I might do some more digging later about that.
I know we talked about that in length on a few episodes, like My Bloody Valentine. And I feel like even The Burning, we talked about stuff like that for different reasons. But
and again, this one's directed by Dan Curtis, but he has a second unit direct a lot of the other stories, specifically the He Who Kills.
Is second unit
directed.
Wow.
Because He Who Kills is directed mostly by the second unit by the effects guys, Rick Stratton and Eric Allard.
I mean, I don't want to just sound ignorant here, but when you say second unit, I just kind of assume it's like a dip in quality. But I mean, if the effects guys are working on it and we got what we got, maybe this is either an exception or just, I don't know what I'm talking about, but that's kind of shocking to hear.
It's not an uncommon thing for effects, the head of effects, whoever that may be for the show, to direct the special effects scenes. And because they know how to shoot it, how to light it, all the angles to get all that kind of stuff.
And it's such an effects heavy segment.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the doll stuff, almost all the doll stuff is second unit stuff.
That's interesting. When we talk about that, I have some more thoughts based on that information, but...
So yeah, before we get into the first story, the only thing I want to note is I love the title card of this. And again, like I said, like watching the trailer and watching that shit on USA, like I just remember that title card come up and it's like the gravestone and the the flowers like die as like the credits are going through. It says Trilogy of Terror 2. It's kind of cheesy, but like it's also nostalgic for me.
I mean, you definitely get that instant EC comic, Creepshow kind of vibe right out the gate, whereas part 1 takes a little bit to get going. You don't get that window dressing right off the bat.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely get it here. You know what you're getting into.
I like it. I think it's cool. Well, because Trilogy of Terror, the first one just starts.
That's what I mean by that.
Yeah. So yeah, story 1, the Graveyard Rats.
Yeah, okay. This is, I might say this about every one of these segments, but this is interesting because I've actually seen this segment done in a different thing before I saw this version. Guillermo del Toro did this series. It was called like
Cabinet of Curiosities.
Cabinet of Curiosities, and they did this story, the Rat Catcher. I think you're going to expand on this a little, but it is more accurate to the original story than what's in Trilogy of Terror 2, but I do like what we got.
I think it's right. So the way that they do this, it's more. You mentioned EC Comics. It's more EC Comics-esque in terms of how they handle it for Trilogy of Terror 2. So
maybe we can hold some of those thoughts to the end of this segment because it does a little. It spoils it quite a bit.
But I'm just in context. And what was I gonna say? So it's written by William Nolan again. Like I said, like I mentioned, the other stories for the first one were adapted. Millicent, Therese, and Julie were adapted by Bill from Richard Matheson stories, and the same goes here. William adapted the story from Henry Kuttner. Now he's the guy who wrote the original Graveyard Rats.
Oh, okay,
story. Yeah. So it's not a Matheson story; it's a Henry Kuttner story.
Right, but it is another adaptation. Different author, got you.
Yeah, but I want to talk a little bit about Henry first because he was part of the Lovecraft circle.
Okay, I thought there was something Lovecraft adjacent, but I guess that's what it was, yeah.
So he wrote a lot of the extended lore for the Cthulhu mythos, and he was he was in correspondence with Lovecraft, and they called it the Lovecraft Circle. And, you got August Derleth, and you got Robert Bloch, who wrote Psycho, who we talked about on the Talks from the Darkside, because he did A Case of the Stubborns, and he did Beatles as well.
Ah, okay.
Beatles we didn't get to yet, but he did write that one. But he did Case of the Stubborns.
Sure, yeah.
So Kuttner was a friend of Lovecraft's, as well as Clark Ashton Smith. And he contributed to the Cthulhu mythos, like I was saying.
Yeah, I did read that some of the gods he created or I guess created. You seem like you would know better than I would.
No, so he kind of just builds on Lovecraft's lore.
Okay, so maybe not a straight up creation.
He's credited to the Happy Cloak, which is a parasitic monster from Venus.
Not necessarily a god, but a creature of some kind. Yeah, cosmic entity.
An eldritch horror, if you will, a cosmic entity.
Which is very in the line of what HP was doing.
Well, yeah, and they kind of the thing with the Lovecraft Circle was that they would share stories with Lovecraft, and they would have correspondence.
Yeah, they'd send letters back and forth,
They'd send letters back and forth. They'd write stories together. He'd ask them, their opinions on stuff, and they built on the lore that he was essentially creating. I don't think a lot of people know exactly how much influence Lovecraft has on the horror sci-fi genre.
Well, it's an unbelievable amount. That's why we got to eventually cover one of his besides Lawnmower, man, that doesn't count.
Well, that's Stephen King.
And Bleeders.
That's Stephen King.
Were those both Stephen King?
No, Bleeders was Stephen.
Okay,
Bleeders is Lovecraft, but it's The Lurking Fear.
Who did Stephen King was Lawnmower Man?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad then.
No, you're good.
But I guess with that said, we need to do a deep dive on Lovecraft because I've dabbled. I've talked about this before. I've played a couple of the games. I've obviously watched many movies that are influenced, but I don't know a ton about him. I obviously see those influences. Cthulhu, how could you not?
I mean, King and Carpenter, man. Just to name a few, heavily influenced by Lovecraft.
I could see it from what I know.
A lot of the contemporary horror artists and writers and filmmakers that we love, Stuart Gordon, of course, were influenced by Lovecraft.
Gordon is one I should have said because he's done so many influenced films.
I thought it was funny too because Kuttner was friends with Richard Matheson.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and had correspondence with Matheson.
He's got the direct line.
So they were friends, and Richard Matheson actually dedicated I Am Legend to Kuttner.
Huh.
Which I thought was interesting.
Wow. Okay. That is a piece of trivia.
Kuttner also wrote the last 500 words to Ray Bradbury's first published story, The Candle.
I never read that one, but I've read a decent amount of Ray Bradbury in high school.
Something Wicked This Way Comes, of course, is a classic, but
Fahrenheit 451 is the one I always go to.
Yeah. What was some other ones?
It's got so many.
I mean, there's so many great ones. October Country is great.
A lot of his poetry work is very interesting. I'm not a big poetry guy, but it's iconic.
It just blows my mind, when you think of these guys talking to each other and corresponding with each other.
Oh, what those letters were even like?
No, just the idea of
just the idea.
Oh yeah, Kuttner just wrote the last 500 words of Ray Bradbury's first story
on Candle. Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah, for an issue of Weird Tales, of course, and that's where these guys kind of. It wasn't like it is now.
No, it was
different.
What I mean? They had the magazines.
They had their little magazine,
the sci-fi mags,
they had
the horror
their
mags.
They had their little magazine, quote unquote, and that's how they would get into the nerd culture. Then was very exclusive.
It's very.
Let's put it that way.
It was, but I mean, even like Playboy, they're writing these stories and some of these authors.
Well, Matheson was in a bunch of Playboys too. Actually, Prey showed up in an issue of Playboy.
I think I saw that. Yeah. I mean, even going so back as Charles Dickens, he had the stories in the magazines and the newspapers.
And Poe, same deal.
I forget the names, but I feel like that's been a staple, no pun intended, for hundreds of years, authors, creatives.
Just one last thing. Also, like William S. Burroughs mentions that happy cloak that I told you about before, that creature, in one of his stories too. So there's even crossover there. So like Burroughs is a fan of Kuttner as well. So, and I love Burroughs too. A little bit more eclectic and scatterbrained and crazy of a read, but
compared to HP,
Lovecraft's very wordy.
Okay,
so bust out your thesaurus or your dictionary,
or just go along with it and be confused.
Oh, don't be confused. I mean, there's a lot to learn.
No, I'm joking. I am the thesaurus guy myself.
You know what I'm saying though. So it's just very wordy. It's not flowery per se, but like
it was also written in the late 1800s. A lot of his stuff.
The 20s.
Oh, the 20s. Excuse me. I thought he was older than that. My bad.
No. So yeah, and that's pretty much it. And like you said, the Graveyard Rats episode of Cabinet of Curiosities, which is also a period piece too, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I feel like the one that Del Toro did, it's a little bit more obvious it's a period piece, but I think he had some more money to work with. It wasn't made for TV. It was, I mean, it's made for Netflix, but Guillermo, he's got the money given to him. He knows what he's doing.
Also true, and
nothing against Dan Curtis, but
no, sure, but like it also, it's kind of cool that it was adapted again and kind of closer to the story. Which is pretty sweet.
I guess you could say this is a period piece, but it would be I guess it really isn't because the guy's watching a fucking movie on TV.
Oh no, not at all. When I say period piece,
you mean like back then?
We're talking like 1800s. Even the 20s is like a period
at
piece.
This point,
you know what I mean? But this is clearly takes place in the 90s.
You're right.
There's VCRs and video.
He's watching one of his favorite movies that he might imitate at some point in this segment.
So we get introduced to Lysette Anythony. Now, she is our Karen Black of this sequel. So she plays the main heroine in all three stories.
Yes. I do think, again, maybe this is a time and a place kind of thing, but did a better job of dressing her. Karen Black looked very good, but I do still think that second segment, they did a good job, but make it a little bit different. They keep trying to say, "Oh, you wouldn't believe we're sisters." Bullshit. This one, her hair's different every time. They even go so far as to do a little bit more with her makeup to try to differentiate these characters, even though they really don't have to. But it helps sell the whole idea.
I think so too.
She's got like blonde hair in the first one, then she's like a brunette, and then she's got black hair in the last one, and with glasses.
And
they keep changing
completely different. Yeah, she's
smart.
like a doctor.
Yes. She's a blonde in this first one.
Yeah, so show just a little bit of backstory on Lysette Anythony. She was big for Dark Shadows. So she was
the remake,
the 91 remake or revival, whatever you want to call it. She played Angelique,
who is the one that curses Barnabas.
Yes,
and then he eventually falls in love with her. I mean, I'm not a big Dark Shadows fan, but my wife is big into it. She's seen, if not every episode, almost all. My fucking dad just watched all 1,500 episodes.
Holy shit!
Took him like 4 years, but he's like, "Yeah, I finally finished Dark Shadows." He knows the exact numbers, like all 1511.
Oh my god.
But yeah, a lot of the more Dark Shadows connections. Love to see it.
Yeah, it's cool, man, and like I'm into it. So of course he would have another actor from Dark Shadows, but it's funny that's the revival version.
Yeah,
you know.
She also was in an episode of Tales from the Crypt. She's in the Steve Buscemi episode, Forever Ambergris.
Oh, Forever Ambergris.
Yes.
Yes.
And Roger Daltrey from The Who's in that.
Yeah, she's his wife. She's Steve Buscemi's wife.
Okay.
And Roger Daltrey is like his war buddy.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a good one.
It looked cool from what I looked up, but I didn't want to spoil myself too much because I hadn't seen it.
It's good.
We'll
get there. We're gonna get there after Monsters.
Okay. Well, eventually then.
So we'll get there.
We'll get there.
You will see it, and we'll talk about it.
We will. I just want to mention these couple other other that I saw, Beneath Loch Ness she's in. I don't know what that is, but she's in it.
I'm pretty sure Beneath Loch Ness is like, that was like early 2000s,
I think
right?
so, yeah.
It was
Loch Ness Monster.
It was direct to video, but it's pretty decent. It's like
so
a
you've
shitty,
seen it, okay.
Yeah, it's like a shitty CGI Loch Ness monster movie.
I wrote that down, of course, and then the other one is actually a movie I like. She's the Princess in Krull.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Plus a ton of other things. Those are the ones that always stand out, are the ones that we care about. But.
Well, yeah, we always do that. When we're going through IMDb, we just pick out the ones that jump out at us, you know what I mean? If I'm not going to sit there and read like all of their fucking credits.
Right, well, Karen Black, you would have been there for the entire runtime of this episode.
Yeah. And I could have been like, she was in, I don't even know, some movie.
She was in Ooga Booga.
She was in some, like big drama movie, and I just don't give a shit.
Yeah, we wouldn't even know, honestly. Yeah. Shame on us, I guess.
So Lysette Anythony plays Laura, who is conspiring and cheating on her rich husband.
Ansford.
Roger Ansford. He's played by Matt Clark, and he's like a big like Western dude. Like he was in Outlaw Josie Wales with Clint Eastwood. He's also in the horror show, which we need to do.
I did see that.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And Back to the Future 3. Which is like, okay, he's like the bartender or some shit.
Oh, okay. I have no idea what character.
I'll tell you right now, he's fucking hanging out with the dudes from I'll Give You a Million. They're playing pool and like doing like 5,000 on each pocket.
I was literally thinking about Mr. Lebowski from The Big Lebowski. Not to make the obvious reference, but also a guy in a wheelchair, old bald guy with glasses, balding guy. But yeah, I could see that from Tales from the Darkside, the rich guys buying each other's souls.
They're clinking glasses. Yeah. Oh, this dude's getting his soul bought too. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, he's got it on video, so he's gonna hold him for that.
So he basically calls out Laura for cheating on him, right? And
I love how she's like, "No, I would never. What are you talking about?
I would never do that."
Oh, okay. Click.
Oh, let's go to the tape. And he fucking plays it, and she's just like fucking her cousin.
Wow.
She's getting slammed.
We find out it's her cousin. Also, another reason why I wore this Diddler t-shirt. Again, thank you again, Logan.
Again, disclaimer, the diddler only diddles with consent.
With consent.
In the MDU.
His dog, not so sure about that, but dogs do what dogs do.
And he's not incestuous either.
Absolutely
not.
He would be disgusted by it. He'd be hitting these motherfuckers with his diddler cane.
After it came out of his ass.
Well, it could be his literal diddler cane or his figurative diddler cane.
Oh, the ding-dong, yeah.
Either way, he wouldn't be happy about this. Yeah, the cousin fucking. Always gotta have cousin fucking. I of course, think of Texas Chainsaw 3D.
Bleeders.
Well, bleeders. We'll get to bleeders in a second. This is some bleeder shit, man. Talk about Lovecraft.
Oh, dude, it's coming.
Yeah. So she's got this video going and then fucking, and she's like, oh my God.
He's like, oh, that looks like fun, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I'm still hung up on the cousin thing, but like she basically is like, oh, what can I do? And he's like, you'll never see him again.
Ever. I'm going to give this fucking tape to the tabloids.
Right, yeah.
And it's like, okay. And then he gives her his will.
Yes.
And he's like,
you're still in it. Don't worry.
You're still the heir to my fortune, but you can't have sex with him anymore and you can't see him anymore.
You can't fuck your cousin. Okay. I mean, for most people, this is a very easy, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
But
cool off those panties of yours. Bye-bye.
Well, then, slam cut to her hanging out with the guy. What do you mean you're not supposed to see me anymore? What the fuck do you think I'm going to do about that? I do what I want.
He's like, shh, this is my favorite part of Kiss of Death. When the fucking person gets pushed down the fucking stairs in the wheelchair.
Was not expecting that to be relevant. I was like, okay, that movie's kind of fucked up. Haven't thought about it in literally decades, but okay.
Special parts, Ron. You gotta be quiet, and then I'll fuck you.
Well, he's getting off on it. Yeah. That's the real underlying thing.
This is worse than Terry O'Quinn with Mr. Ed. It's worse than that.
Yeah, with the peanut butter, right? Yeah. Well, he actually doesn't enjoy the sex. He's just doing because it's part of being an everyday American dad.
That's right. You're interrupting the Mr. Ed.
Right. So in that sense, yes, she's interrupting his favorite kill in a horror film from the 50s. And he is just doing that dead-eyed shit, watching it while she's crawling on top of him.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, we can just stay together, like it doesn't matter. And like, offhandedly, he's like, why don't we just kill him? And she's like, yeah, huh. And he's like, no, seriously, let's kill him. And then that's the plan.
He's instantly really into he's really into this idea. He starts like coming up with shit like, yeah, I've seen TV shows. I know I've read books.
It's also one of the things like, this guy.
I've seen movies.
This old guy has recorded them fucking in a room.
What doesn't have a camera on them at 24/7?
That's what I'm saying. What makes you think that the room doesn't have a camera or like a bug in it?
There's a bug, yeah.
And I'm like,
listening.
Okay, I guess we'll just plot the old man's death now.
Well, that would have been a very interesting alternate direction for this to take. Like, I wonder where that would have gone. But instead, no. It's a little stereotypical, but it works.
Yeah.
The cheating couple killing the old man for his money, even though there's the cousin thing. But
well, they're also going to try. They want to try to scare him to death. So it's kind of like
at first.
It's kind of like the Strung Along episode of Tales from the Crypt, where they try to scare when it's successful. But
what I've seen,
yes,
not to always say that, but when it comes up, I'm like, oh, I know that one.
Yeah, I remember that Joe used to clip in that other.
Or we watched it on a random afternoon 15 years ago.
I think so, yeah.
There's a few of those, but yeah.
I think we watched it on my wedding, the night before my wedding.
We might have done
in my hotel room.
We watched a few.
Yeah, we watched we had a Tales from the Crypt marathon in my hotel room.
I'll never forget just watching the Joe Pesci one at a barbecue at your house, like in between burgers. It's like, whoa, what's going on in the living room?
On the big screen.
Joe Pesci's getting cut in half or something. I don't know.
I'm too sexy for this earring. Too sexy for this ponytail.
Oh, God. Yeah, Mr. Ponytail, man.
That's a fucking good one.
So then she's like kind of buttering up her husband, like, nothing to worry about. Because they hear like a clatter in the background. He's like, what the fuck was that? She's like, oh, it's nothing. Don't worry about it.
She like brings him food.
Yeah.
And he's like, you fucking idiot. You spilled this all over the place. Get away from me. Get out of my sight.
Well, I think it's like implied that she may have poisoned it. And like maybe this is her way to take him out. But he just throws the food away. And it's like, well, plan B.
He's like berated. She's like she's like berated. He's like berating her.
Well, yeah, he's going hardcore in on her, and I mean, I guess he doesn't feel like he needs to hold back anymore.
No, fuck that. So they hear the thing out in the hallway, and he's like, "Call the police! I got my gun!" And he pulls his fucking gun out, and he's in his little wheelchair, and she's like pretending to call the cops. She's like, "Yeah, my husband's here, and he's got a gun, and there's somebody in the house. Like, get over here as soon as possible."
But she like very obviously like hits
holding the because remember, kids. On
the receiver.
Old telephones, you picked up a receiver and there was something to hang up, and she's holding that down so there's no call going through.
And then he kind of comes around the corner with this revolver, and Ben, I think that's the guy's name, Ben, the cousin fucker, comes around a corner. Is like, well, just like my movie, pushes him down the fucking steps.
Dude, he just like totally abandons the plan, pulls his mask off,
shows
and
himself.
goes, and runs him down the fucking hallway in the wheelchair, and down the stairs he goes.
I mean, he's a goddamn psychopath.
Well, this is also true. He's like, I finally got to live my fantasy out.
Right,
This is great.
I just came in my pants. Is that normal?
Oh, boy.
I liked it if it wasn't.
So the cops come and he's like, oh, this is a terrible accident, ma'am. She's like, oh, I can't believe it. He heard somebody coming inside. Somebody broke in and he just fell down the stairs in his wheelchair.
and they just are convinced they're getting away with this. They don't understand how police work actually operates. Nope. They don't know that like in a week they're going to find something that's going to convict them. But, the movie never really gets there. Just like, other things happen.
It checks out. Everything's fine. Well, good evening,
well,
madam.
That's what they tell him, Joe. Yeah. I've seen Columbo. I know how there's some annoying cop's going to come back and keep asking one more thing, and they're going to slip up. They're going to slip up eventually.
Oh, he's going to come walking in his trench coat and be like, look, ma'am, I think you missed something here.
Unfortunately, Columbo never gets his chance because they fucking scurry off to Salem, Massachusetts for this funeral.
They fucking walk into the slaughtered lamb. Dude.
Oh, God, like verbatim.
Oh, this is
bar,
great.
Irish pub.
Jeffrey Lewis is sitting at the bar.
Oh, should I know him?
As Harley Stubbs.
Okay, right. The groundskeeper Stubbs.
Okay, so I got the best through line with this one. It's the same actor, but he's playing the same character from Lawnmower Man.
Is he the priest?
No, he's the guy that Job like works for.
Oh, not the
landscaping
priest, the
guy.
the guy that gets him his fucking lawnmower, the Red Rocket or whatever it's called.
The big red machine.
Oh yeah, Kane. Before he was an asshole.
But like he's doing the Irish accent and everything. It's the same. I'm convinced it's the same character.
Is this like Iron Eyes Cody and fucking Ernest Goes to Camp, where he was actually Italian and he just pretended that he was Native American his whole life? Is it one of those? Possible. This guy's not actually Irish.
I think he might be Irish. You know what?
He's actually Jewish. He's like, I really do a good Irish accent. They'll never find me.
Oh, Harley Stubbs here at your service. You know who he is, though?
No, who is he actually?
He's Juliet Lewis's dad.
Like in real life?
Yeah. Jeffrey Lewis.
So he's a Scientologist. Well, she was born into it, so...
beats me, dude.
Well, I'm telling you, that had to be what happened.
I mean, I guess so. But he's Harley Stubbs, and he's the groundskeeper for the graveyard.
He's good in this.
And he's getting his balls, but he's always good in everything. He's getting his balls busted by
two of the locals.
Two of the local guys. And he's like, hey, yeah, you fucking those corpses? You stealing those all the corpses stuff? Grave robbing?
He is talking about, there's something weird under those graves, tunnels or something. The jewelry keeps disappearing. So they're like, yeah, you're stealing it. Come on.
I heard you're getting bodies for Herbert West down the road.
It's getting them for Granny Van Dam. He's got to fill up that house, the castle or whatever it is, the mansion.
He's getting something a little extra on the side.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Come on, boy! Puts him up against that wall.
So he's like, oh, you must be the folks and your feller died, eh? You don't want to bury him in the north yard there because there's rats tunneling through the bottom there. And she's like, what? And he's like, yeah, you better get a steel coffin, me lass. And the guy's like, what the fuck are you talking? He's like, who are you again? And he's like, well, I'm the groundskeeper. I or whatever. He's the not the mortician, but he does the funerals.
Right. Well, he digs the graves and everything.
Gravedigger. Yeah. And he's like, oh, I know what this is. You're trying to get us to buy one of those expensive steel coffins, ain't you? I get you, game. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, Ben goes off on him.
He's like, rats is as big as dogs, I tell you.
Kind of a big rat. Kind of big rats.
Oh, it's a giant rat.
Dude, this is like the rats. I forget what they're called. The ones at a Princess Bride. The unusually large rats or whatever.
Yeah.
The rouses.
They're giant rats.
These are pretty fucking big when you see them,
Aren't they giant?
I mean, again, this debate has been going on for years. When I think giant, debate. I think it's like Godzilla size. But as far as like compared to a regular small rat, like what Connor has at home, his pets, this is a giant fucking rat. You're right.
It's a giant fucking rat.
Rottweiler size.
So then you would agree with me that
these things blow the one out of unknown origin out of the fucking water.
So
Joe.
of unknown origin,
it's still kind of a big rat.
Is a giant rat.
It's still kind of a big rat. These things are about triple the size of the rat in that film.
I don't know.
The debate continues. But before we get to these unusually large rats, the great rat debate, we have this funeral scene. And like when they're going to the bar and the funeral both times, like Lysette, I'll just call her. I forget her actual name. The actress, she's like, yeah, Lysette Anythony. She's like, I don't think it's like a good look for like us to be like so chummy after my husband died. And he's like, don't worry about it. We're like, we're cousins.
Fuck
whatever.
Because he also works for the company?
Well,
he's like a CEO or some shit.
They were going to fire him. That was also why he wanted to kill him off.
Well, I'm not getting fired now. Fuck you, uncle?
I guess. But anyway, they're at the funeral.
Oh, no, they're cousins. There's no blood relation to him.
It gets muddy. It's been a minute
I don't know.
since I watched it at this point, this deep into the review. But the point is, everyone at the funeral just kind of gets an ick from them, like looking at them like, oh, this is weird. To the point where I think it's like his old business partner, or basically the other guy that ran the company with Ansford, is like, yeah. I forget exactly what he says, but you could tell he seems like not okay with their relationship. I forget exactly what it is.
He just thinks he's a scumbag.
Yeah, maybe that's all.
He's like, if you need anything, let me know, and go fuck yourself, Richard, or whatever the fuck his name is.
Richard!
Or go fuck yourself, whatever, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
It's so funny, though, to me, though.
It's like obvious to this guy is the point.
Yeah. It's so funny to me, too, though, because, like, just real quick, I want to jump back to the rats. Jeffrey Lewis is, like, talking about how there's hundreds of rats underneath this graveyard.
Yeah.
And they're eating bodies. And he's telling them all of this. And I swear to God, it's not it is the rats, like it's half rats, but it's also half Van Dams. It's got to be.
Oh, I mean, yeah, the potato people are fucking moving in. They're pulling those bodies.
People are down there, yeah. You think they fight over it? The rats and the Van Dams, right? They're
going to war.
They're going to war. Norm is there, like trying to like stop the two factions. Yeah, Gnome is there trying to stop the two factions.
They hired him to build the original tunnels, and then when he realized what they're going to be used for, he felt a lot of remorse, and he now battles against them.
Yeah, that's it. He's just trying to recharge Lumen, dude.
He's killing rats. He's eating them for energy. He's fighting the Van Dams. He's got a fucking Glock down there.
Okay. Legend of Zelda, but you're Gnome, and you have to fight.
Oh, in the underground or something?
Yeah. It's like Link 2, right?
Oh,
or like Zelda 2, Gnorm's Quest.
Okay, yeah.
And you have to fight rats.
Oh my God.
You have to charge Lumen, fight rats, and kill Van Dams.
You know what's funny about that? Zelda 2, The Legend of Link, or whatever the fuck it's called.
The Adventure of Link.
The Adventure of Link.
The Adventure of Gnome.
You could make an argument that is a pixelated Gnome and not actually Link. They kind of look similar from those small pixels.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Legend of Zelda 2, The Legend of Lumen 2,
Gnome.
The Adventures of a Gnome named Gnome.
And the name of the princess is obviously Gnome, right?
No, Rena.
So it's the Legend of Rena.
Yes. Well, yeah, you could do that.
Just take the reference all the way.
Okay, let's take it all the way. I was going to say Lumen because...
Right, because, again,
the alliteration, it's fine.
Yeah. Deep lore on the Movie Dumpster podcast. But back to the film at hand. They have this funeral... But they're going to go back because the whole thing is they need to get this money out of the Swiss fucking bank account that the guy set up before he died.
Well, the whole thing, they have the funeral and they're like, see you later, fucking whatever your name
Ansford,
is.
I think.
See you later, Ansford. They bury him. Everything's great. Excellent. We're reading the will tomorrow at 10 a.m. Come hang out with us.
Right. There is that caveat. You're correct.
So they go to the will reading and she comes out and Ben's like, oh, yeah, baby, let's get that money. And she's like, yeah, it's not going to happen because everything's tied up in a Swiss bank account. He sold everything. It's all liquidated.
He's been, like, all the stuff he's been living off the last few years is just, like, the money he had in the bank.
Yeah, it's all gone. It's not gone, but it's tied up. It's locked up. And they need codes to get into the accounts, and nobody has the codes. So fuck you.
Exactly. And then they're like kind of sitting around a fire in the house that they now are just occupying his house, by the way.
Well, she got the estate.
Right. Fucking in his bed.
In the wheelchair that they killed him
in his wheelchair. Yeah. Oh my God, that's a visual.
You know that dude is doing that.
Granny's offended. But so
don't tarnish my damn wheel.
Yeah, only I'm allowed to push you up against the wall and fuck you. If you do it, it's not funny.
Hey, you can't use that unless we're doing a threesome.
I mean, she does a human centipede situation on him. Oh my God.
Yeah, could be.
But they're musing about what to do, and they kind of realize, oh, we need these codes. Where the fuck could he have hid them? And they're kind of naming like, oh, could it be here? Could it be here? And then finally, Lysette's like, oh, that pocket watch, it was the one item he asked to be buried with him, and I just happened to remember that it's got a secret compartment that I totally knew about. It's got to be in there.
And it is. It sure is.
I guess in the moment when you're just murdering the poor bastard, the thought left your mind.
So it turns out Jeffrey Lewis really is a fucking grave robbing piece of shit.
Yeah, I do like that detail.
You don't need that watch anymore there, lad. And he's digging him up, and he did all the work for, is it Ben?
I think his name's Ben. That's what I wrote down at least. Yeah.
So Ben comes up. Turns out Jeffrey did all the work for him. And Ben
dug up the body.
Ben, he's really some kind of fucking sadist, dude. He like pulls out this crowbar and just bashes this guy right in the fucking face.
He's like, well, we caught you doing it, so I guess you gotta die.
Well, see ya.
Knocks him in the head. He just collapses like a bag of potatoes because he's Irish, we think.
Gives him the Sticky Bandit special, yeah.
A bag of latkes. I don't know if he's Jewish. I made the joke earlier. There's a through line. But yeah, he's dead. Dead as shit. And then Ben's like in the grave like, well, okay, yeah, here's the watch. It's right here. We found it.
Yep.
She's got the gun pointing him. All right, well, I never really wanted to split the money. I've been leading you on, too, even though you're my cousin and I fucked you.
The old double cross.
I mean, you still let your cousin slip the old salami Sam inside you, but okay.
She needed to get a little something extra out of it, I guess.
I hope she doesn't have a Habsburg child on the way. If she does, it doesn't matter.
It's all cyclic, Sean. It's the MDU. She's given birth to a Van Damme in those tunnels now.
Oh, God, you're right. Yes. Because, yes,
post-mortem.
The body starts getting pulled into this hole.
It's so good because she blows him away. Right.
Yeah.
And, like, you just see Ansford just, like, shimmying back in his fucking coffin. You're like, oh, shit.
And, of course, she hasn't, like, removed the gold watch yet, even though they showed the films in there and everything.
It's dangling there.
Yeah. So
how it fell back in the box, I'm not entirely sure.
Well, again, they're kind of taking ideas from this original story and adding on top of it, as we find out, with this love triangle element, which wasn't, again, in the original, I don't think. It definitely wasn't in the Del Toro version. It is more about the grave robber / keeper.
Yeah, no, that's like, it's all about him.
So much. I wonder.
Yeah.
But anyway, she goes in there after the body, and of course, it's a struggle.
Man, this gets extra creepy because it's like claustrophobic.
Oh,
she's like, now, like when you really think about it, she not only
that's super tight.
She's in a hole. She's in a grave inside a coffin, crawling into a hole filled with all these tunnels and these giant fucking rats. And she's trying to grab this body that's being dragged off.
This is going to end up like one of those situations you see online where someone was doing like some spelunking in a cave and they just ended up like T-posed with their head in like a crevice and they're just stuck there and they die.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't ever need to do that. More power to the people out there doing that shit. But that's what it made me think of. Like, you're just going to get stuck and fucking die or get your face eaten off.
If I saw that body getting pulled, I would literally jump off onto the body.
To get the watch,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. She like crawls down the ladder and it's like, it takes her too long to get to it. She's trying to grab, I don't even know how she's getting leverage down there because she's trying to like grab his feet.
And this is not a light man. He's kind of like really fat, which is a point.
His like shoe comes off because she's like trying to grab his foot. And she follows him pretty far into this fucking
More than
hole,
I would have, but dude, I guess if all your money's on the line.
I know, but like also like you would have got turned around in a second because now there's just tunnels everywhere. There's rats coming all over the place.
She needed some rice. You got to drop rice like Hansel and Gretel or something.
Yeah, seriously. She's got a gun in there. She's shooting rats. She's definitely deaf at this point.
Big ass rats, yeah. Chasing this body, she finally catches up to it, grabs the watch, and is like, all right, I'm in the clear. But now, like you just said, she's all mixed up. She doesn't know what fucking way she has to go. And plus, these rats are now converging on her from both sides.
Yeah, and they're nasty fuckers, too.
They're biting the shit out of her.
Yeah, she's getting her boot bit. I always remember that part where the whole foot's in its mouth.
Oh, God, yeah.
But she's looking around with the flashlight, and she spots the coffin.
Yeah, the coffin.
So she crawls towards the coffin to get out. And she's like, "Oh, all right, I'm gonna get out of here." She fucking gung ho. She books it to the coffin. She turns around and looks up, and the coffin's covered over.
Wrong one, lady.
Wrong one. The one right next to where her ex-husband was buried.
Because they pull up with the shot outside of it, and it is literally the next one over.
It's such a banger because like all the rats rush in and they're eating the shit out of her. And then it's like that slow pan up from the grave, and you're like, oh shit, she's trapped. Oh, where is it? Right next to the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see poor Jeffrey Lewis with a crowbar in his face, and Ben's fucking brains are blown out.
Yeah.
It's a really good ending.
Now, the key difference, again, you could just watch it. It's on Netflix or if there's a DVD out there somewhere. But the Guillermo version that, like I said, is a little closer to the original story is mostly, again, I haven't watched it since it came out, but it does have more with the groundskeeper trapped in those tunnels and then like a corpse goes after him. I forget the semantics, but there is more of that. And I feel like it ends similarly where he crawls into the wrong coffin and either suffocates or is eaten alive or both.
Either way, that's
a bad ending.
Being under the ground like that is fucking creepy as hell.
And then
when you add like trying to crawl out of a coffin that's covered, so it's like buried alive,
which is a scary concept in itself.
Yeah, it's like buried alive, eaten by rats, suffocating, and I don't know. It just all of it is just terrifying.
Imagine if Ryan Reynolds had to deal with rats on top of just being locked in that coffin. I forgot what that movie was called, but he did that movie where he's in a coffin.
I don't know, but I always think of like Kill Bill.
Well, the second one, yeah, or part 2.
Yeah.
Well, so what did you think about that one?
I really like this one. You know me, man. You got those fucking big ass rubber rat monsters.
And they are little rubber monsters.
They are little rubber monsters, and I think they're really great. This is like classic anthology, like Creepshow-esque type shit, and again the way that they changed the story for this one, it's very easy. The way that
it works,
the way that it's like the cheating wife and the espionage with the husband or conspiring against her husband and all this shit, and like having to do it, and then there's some kind of I guess you could call it supernatural, like means to an end here, and then they get their comeuppance. So it's just a really good one. I haven't read the original story, but I do want to check it out. And I haven't actually seen the Guillermo del Toro version.
You'd like it, I think.
Yeah, I definitely want to check it out. But I think this one is good. I think it's fun, and it's like a classic story, like anthology piece. So I dig it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna echo what you said. It's very good. It kicks off this trilogy, if you will. This trilogy of terror, if you will, better yet.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Very well. Had me sucked in instantly like the last one. I think Julie was a very good segment, but it took a while to get rolling. This one doesn't pull any punches.
No.
Right off the bat, you know what you're getting into. And then it even kind of morphs a couple times. So it mixes it up without even really like forcing it. But it still does get all those flavors you want from this kind of story. It's just very good.
The climax is so good too, man. Like it's just one thing after another, twist after twist, and then just the end is just so good.
Oh yeah, and I do think I'd like the Del Toro take on this story more, but they're so drastically different. I think you can watch both and enjoy them for different things. So I would recommend checking both out.
Yeah,
and I guess read the story. I would like to read the story. I'm just kind of going off what I've heard.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's very good.
So now we have our story 2, Bobby.
I don't know how we want to tackle this one, because this is one that I like a lot, But there's a caveat.
Okay.
Where this is a remake.
Yes. So we mentioned at the beginning of the episode Dead of Night, which was the pilot for the Trilogy of Terror Dead of Night series in the 70s. And Dead of Night was kind of like the sequel to Trilogy of Terror. And it is a Richard Matheson story, and it was part of that anthology as well.
Right. And Dan Curtis, like we said, worked on both.
He directed it, yeah.
And this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get that part of it out of the way. I do think it's literally a shot-for-shot remake.
Yeah.
I will say that this is done better, and we can expand on that when we talk about it. But that is the biggest negative I will say about this segment is that when I watched it on my first viewing, liked it a lot, still like it a lot. But when you see that it's literally something he did 20 years ago, almost fucking verbatim. I'm like, okay, well, maybe we didn't need this. It's still awesome, but why the fuck, Dan? You couldn't come up with another idea? And again, especially when the third one is now Zuni Doll Part 2. Like it a lot.
Yeah.
Not to put the cart before the horse because we're not there yet, but I'm also like, Dan, you couldn't... There's some other ideas. The Zuni doll, I get. It's Trilogy of Horror 2, or Terror 2. You kind of want that, but I don't know. Bobby kind of surprised me to see that it was a remake.
So I don't think Dead of Night was widely available at the time.
Maybe that's why.
And like there was no YouTube.
Sure.
And if it wasn't on tape, you couldn't watch it. And if it didn't show on TV like as a rerun, you didn't see it. So I think
Dan was banking on that.
I think Dan was just like, hey, I got another shot at this, and I want to do Bobby again because it's a really good story and it's Matheson again. And I'm pretty sure they just reused the Matheson script from the original Dead of Night for this.
There might be like one scene that's different. She makes like a phone call in the first version that's not in this version that actually recontextualizes a couple things, but yeah it's almost verbatim.
Just for the most part.
Yeah.
I can understand wanting to kind of do it again if you felt like it could be better. You know what I mean? Or part of, this anthology.
I think he does do it better.
I think it's good.
I'd be remiss not to mention that because I watched both because I was like, wow, this is kind of crazy that this exists in these two different forms from the same director. And just one other thing I want to mention, just because it's relevant to like what we've been talking about this entire episode, the kid who plays Bobby in that original version is named Lee H. Montgomery. And he was actually also in an episode of Columbo as like a boy genius who creates a fucking robot, and it's Robbie the robot. And it helps like Columbo works with this kid to solve the murder. It's actually one of the best episodes.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Oh my God.
It's like on I forget the semantics, like a science, like think. What do they call that? Like a think camp or something. There's a term for it.
Are you sure it wasn't Rand Peltzer? His invention convention?
Maybe when he grew up, right. But he was in that, so I just thought that was... And he was also in Burn Offerings as Karen Black's son.
Yes. Okay, so that one I got.
So the Dan Curtis connections, again, reusing actors. Yeah. Joan Hackett plays his mother in that. She's from The Possessed.
Yep.
That was the only other trivia I wrote for that. But just kind of interesting. The Columbo connections. I know we're in the ballpark there where a lot of that stuff was happening.
You're the Columbo
I watch
guy.
every episode, so...
How many episodes are there of Columbo?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Is there 5,011?
There's not that many. No. Oh, well, like I was saying earlier about the fucking Dark Shadows. No, there's not that many. It's because it's one of those shows that's like some seasons are like 10 episodes and some are like literally a special and that's it.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So I'm not actually sure.
I never really watched Columbo. Maybe
it holds up.
Yeah, maybe I should check it out.
It's on Tubi.
Okay, so this one opens up again. Lysette Anythony is just Bobby's mother. That's what she's credited as. She's coming home from shopping, not for food, as we'll find out, and a storm is rolling in as she gets home.
And they make this huge point because it's a plot point, so it makes sense that they live on this house is on like a rock face outside of the ocean.
It's beautiful. It's this big giant mansion, and there's a fucking 300-foot fucking drop into the ocean on the cliffs on a bunch of rocks.
And they keep pointing out these crags that are a little deeper out there. That you don't want to go on those crags, Joe, because it's real choppy out there.
Do you have it? Guts!
Yeah, right, the fucking aggro crag.
The aggro crag.
That's what Bobby was climbing on.
That's what Bobby wanted, dude. He was just trying to hit that fucking buzzer.
Trophy! That's the real truth. No, we'll find out what happened to Bobby.
Yeah.
But yeah, mom comes in and she's just kind of going about her business.
A lot of shots of the house, and there's like pictures of Bobby, and like you see
this huge painting of him.
There's a huge painting of him above like this fireplace, and you see Lysette Anythony like preparing for this ritual. She draws like this big
Solomon's key.
Yeah, well, one of the Solomon sigils like on the ground, or seals rather. And
I was thinking about a fucking Full Metal Alchemist. I was getting nervous.
I don't know who the fuck she's summoning.
The summoning circle is the point. She specifically
Euronymous.
she calls it Euronymous, which is like if you actually look it up, it is considered like a Greek god.
Yeah, the Prince of Death.
The Prince of Death. He was involved with undead, but I feel like it's one of those ones that Euronymous is just a name that popped up a lot. I think I even joked about it from our Clash of the Titans episode. Yeah. But it's not like a very well known. It's not like Hades or some shit that everyone is. Oh, Hades, I've heard of that. It's like Euronymous is a bit of a deep cut.
Well, the singer of Mayhem, obviously.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Of course,
from Oslo, of course.
Yeah.
He definitely didn't wear that brain matter around a necklace. That is a fucked up story. They did that horrible movie with Kieran Culkin, by the way. I don't recommend it.
You know what? I did not see that.
I'm not even like the biggest fan of them, but their story's interesting, and my wife likes the band quite a bit, so she watched it, and she was like, man, this is rough. Not a good representation.
Black metal, baby.
Burning churches down.
Yeah.
Even though Euronymous was totally not okay with that, and that's why he was murdered by his bandmate. Look it up. It's crazy shit.
So as Lysette's performing this ritual, she's like giving the exposition about Bobby. She's like, bring back Bobby, Prince of Death, return my Bobby to me who died on the cliffs below the house where he wasn't supposed to be, and he was playing, and now he's dead. Bring him back.
Don't put his soul in a suit of armor like Edward Elric. I'm undercutting a lot of that for spoilers' sake. Full Metal Alchemist.
I want to note one more thing here that I didn't talk about yet because I was going to save it till the end, but this is the last time it happens. Man, just let Lysette Anythony have her British accent because she's
British?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense now.
Man, she's got a terrible...
that lines up. I was like, what's going on with this woman's voice?
She's got a terrible American accent.
And it's all over the place.
And like, I'm not trying to be a dick. Like, it's just, that was a bad decision. Like, you could have did 3 different characters that just all happen to be British and it'd be fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I guess the third one, it's a little bit more obvious that she's speaking with that
Well,
tone.
they just let her be British.
Right. So after she does this ritual, she just thinks, nothing worked, whatever. Oh, well. But then she hears the knock at the door. It's Uncle Fester, Joe. 3 times!
He's back.
No, it's Bobby.
Yeah.
Or what she thinks is Bobby.
Well, he's
covered in I'm saying covered in rain. He's drenched.
Yeah, he's just totally soaked. It's pouring outside.
Almost like he just came out of the ocean.
Mommy, let me in. I'm cold. Bobby's cold, Mommy. Let me in, Mommy.
Where were you, Bobby? Some guy, Mr. Green or something. They found me in the. I was there for like a few weeks or something.
I woke up on the beach and these people found me and I've been staying at their house. And then I woke up and then I walked all the way home.
I had amnesia, Mom. She's like, well, why didn't they call the police? They did. And then she just kind of lets it go like, well, I'm just happy you're alive.
I can't remember anything, only cold water, and I couldn't breathe.
It's instantly unsettling. Every line of dialogue this kid's firing off, you're like, well, that doesn't make sense.
No. And she's like, you're so alive. And I'm like,
she doesn't care. She's just happy to see her son.
She just wants her kid back, it's a real Pet Cemetery situation.
Literally.
You know
I mean, it is a little cliche. A parent, a grieving parent, trying to summon their dead child or whatever back, and something, spoilers, may not come back. That it may come back, but it might not be what they think.
Yeah.
In this case, as far as she knows, it's just her son. But she's gonna have the doctor check him out in the morning, Joe, because we don't want to take any chances.
No. We're gonna make you a nice little tuna sandwich.
His favorite.
Yeah, your dad's away on business, but come on, we're gonna eat and then we're gonna go to bed because Mom's tired.
Well, and when she says dad's on business, he's like, "Who's dad?" And she's like, "You know, your father." And he's like, "Oh yeah.
Was I always a good boy, Mommy?
Oh, well, talk about unsettling. This is where it ratchets up. The lightning starts hitting, the thunder.
Did you love me, Mommy?
And then she's like, well, yeah, of course.
And were you always nice to me, Mommy?
And then she's like, oh, you got to stop this, Bob. And he's like, yes, Mommy. That's more like what you sounded like.
That's the way you treated Bobby. Why was I in the water, Mommy?
Oh, right, really needling this woman, and she doesn't really understand
She's
why.
Like, oh, and he's like, why was I allowed to play on the rocks, Mommy?
I mean, he slaps his tuna sandwich off the table. I want to play a game, goddammit!
She's like, I told you not to play on the rocks.
Yeah, right, well, like, the whole point is, like, there's those undertones
I
of,
want
like...
a sandwich! And he, like, hits the fucking,
It's very well written,
so
I
great.
can understand maybe why Dan Curtis wanted to revisit this.
And I'm being a goof, but it's actually unsettling.
It is.
Yeah.
I said it already, but the dialogue really just sends it over the edge because now he wants to play hide and seek, and Mom just is like, she's a little scared, but she's just kind of going with it.
Why don't we go to sleep, Bob? He's like, I want to play a game now!
Yeah.
And he, like, jumps up and, like, runs away.
And the way this is shot and lit, is why it's creepier, because I think that original version, if you do watch it, not that it's not scary, not that it's like not dark in the room, but there's just the way that the lighting is done here is drastically different. It's different. Obvious when you compare the two.
You know what it reminded me of?
Cape Fear. That's what I thought of.
Cape Fear, Child's Play 2.
Oh yeah, a little
oddly
bit.
enough, when Chucky comes back the first time to the house, like the way that it's lit and the way that it's shot kind of reminded me of that.
They do a lot of like that blue light kind of hitting everything to kind of emanate the lightning and the wind.
But also those wide lenses, but like get real close in.
They really
on
use
the subject.
Yes, but they also, like, to your point, they use the space that they have, this massive house, to use those wide lenses and those long shots to really like make things to make characters smaller in the spaces they're standing in, or just for dramatic effect, if nothing else.
I think it's dramatic effect, but I mean, it's shot really well.
But she's looking all over for him.
Ha ha, mommy, you gotta find me.
They make a point to show this pot on this shelf at the top of this overhang, these stairs that go up. And she's like, where is he? Where is he? Stop, Bobby, stop. And this 100-pound pot flies at her, and she jumps out of the way. She's like, oh my God, Bobby, you could have killed me. And he's fucking laughing, running away.
The way that she says that,
that's pretty bad.
I was like, just let her have her English accent, God damn it.
Trying to keep that accent.
You almost killed me. She says it like so fucked up. I'll put a clip in.
You almost killed me!
Joan Hackett did it better. She wasn't trying to hide an accent that I'm aware of.
He also throws like this rock ashtray at her.
Oh, at the mirror,
yeah. The same one that Aunt Bedelia used to fucking kill Daddy. Ha ha, mommy! He's like doing that the whole time.
Yeah.
And I threw a pot at you. No, he doesn't say that. But the phone rings.
Oh yeah! Oh my God!
And it's like it's John. Who's her husband. And she's like, Bobby's back, John. The people found him. I think he's losing his mind.
And this time you could actually hear the other person on the line. And he's like, what are you crazy? Well, yeah, but first he's like, what are you, nuts?
He keeps like repeating her.
She's like, why do you keep repeating me?
He's like, why do I keep repeating you?
Starts laughing and shit, and then turns into Bobby's voice. And is like,
fooled you.
Literally says that. Fooled you, mommy. Now you have to find me. Or I'll come find you.
Come find you.
And then he starts counting down.
But the banger is that, like, when she pulls out the phone line's cut.
Yeah. Again, not to keep referencing it. I have one other reference here at the end, I'll say. But the one thing I did like about the original, but maybe this was more of a runtime thing. There is this opening scene that isn't in this, where she calls Dad the first time, and you get a little conversation, clearly showing that Dad's concerned about Mom, that she's still I mean, they're both upset about Bobby, but he's like, we got to do something about this.
Yeah.
You don't get that here, and I don't think you need it. But then when you hear the Dad this time, you're already predisposed to like, oh, it's just Dad. Whereas this one is like, I don't know, it's a little different. I don't know. It's hard to explain without seeing. It's two different effects. They both work.
It's almost more isolating.
That is true.
Without that little exchange.
Especially since now you don't even know if Dad even really actually exists.
Or if he's dead or what.
It's just, again, almost shot for shot, but that little caveat, that's not in there. So I wonder what the reasoning was.
So now this is just literally cat and mouse of... Like, it keeps getting...
It escalates.
Escalating, yeah. So she grabs a butcher's knife and she, like, hides in the pantry.
She's that after the pot incident.
Well, Jesus, he's, like, trying to kill her now. And now she knows something's really up because... You know, she's talking to fucking nobody on the phone.
He's also doing kind of, I guess it's a little cliche now, but a lot of like classic slasher movie, like the ones that talk, at least like the Freddy's.
Are you in the pantry, Mummy?
Yeah.
You might be in the pantry, Mummy.
A little bit more Scream-ish, I would even say. Even though the original story predates it. But yeah, she's hiding in the pantry. And he's like, yeah, the pantry. That would be a good place to hide. I knew that, Mommy. Like, oh, so Bobby used to hide in the pantry from his crazy mother. Okay.
I guess. And
I think that's what he's saying.
Oh, I hear you upstairs, Mommy. You tried to fool Bobby. And he like runs away. Now, this is the part. Oh, excuse me. He grabs a butcher knife. She has a wrench.
She does have some.
She's got a wrench.
Yeah.
Bobby opens the door because he like runs away and she like goes to open the door and she's like, "Gotcha, Mommy!" And she fucking cracks him one right in the dome.
What if that is actually your kid and he's just having an episode?
I don't know, man.
I mean, I'm with you. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. No pun intended.
Well, she also summoned this fucking thing
with the Solomon's gift. Forgot about that.
Right. So she knows something's up, right?
Even if she's trying to gaslight herself into thinking that can't possibly be the case. Yeah.
Bobby didn't like that, Mommy.
Well, then she runs to the garage.
Bobby's gonna punish you, Mommy.
Well, she runs to the garage, which is where this starts, and then she's like trying to hide in her car for some reason.
Like he didn't see you in there?
Well, I think she's actually trying to use the garage door opener, and he's somehow disconnecting the line because the electricity's out.
Yeah, I don't know how that even makes... Well, yeah, I guess that does make sense. But he starts bashing in the windows of the car with like a sledgehammer.
Yeah, it's scary.
It's pretty scary, dude, and he's like bopping all the windows out.
And she somehow gets out of there. She's like, oh my God, Bobby!
She runs upstairs and like locks herself in her room, and Bobby comes in, and like she's just hiding behind like a little dresser.
I mean, her wits are at their end, Joe.
Yeah, I know, but like he obviously sees her when he like walks in there. So he's walking around like he doesn't see her. And then he's like, fooled you! And she fucking pulls a gun out of the dresser drawer and lights this kid up, and he goes flying out the fucking window.
Talk about Chucky, oh my God.
Into the sea he goes again.
Right, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And it's just like, holy shit, dude.
I guess you know why I forgot about that, because he instantly returns. She's like going down the steps trying to recover from this nightmare. And
he
he's
comes
like,
in the front door
he comes in, he's like, hey, that wasn't enough, Mom. In fact, you know what? Bobby hated you so much, Mom. I'm not actually Bobby.
Well, he like appears at the top of the stairs and like throws her down.
Oh,
and this is really fucked up because of the shit that he says to her.
I mean, yeah, he hates his fucking mother.
He's like slowly walking down the stairs. He's like, you lied, Mommy. I didn't drown in an accident.
Oh,
you know that. And like really like just giving it to her.
Killed himself to get away from her.
Bobby drowned himself because of you.
Yeah.
He hated you, Mommy.
That's some fucking dark stuff.
So he sent me instead.
Well, this bad goblin.
Oh my God. It's actually like a little person in makeup.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Maybe this is the one time the lighting in this segment didn't do them any favors, because I kind of like this to look a little better. It's creepy, don't get me wrong, but it just looks like a Halloween mask.
I think the makeup's pretty cool.
Maybe I should watch it again. It looked a little shitty to me.
A little demon. I think it looks fine. And that's pretty much it. But I mean, Bobby's a demon.
Yeah. Oh, well, the original, it looks like Danzig. Straight up, it's like some fucking face with some long hair. That's it. like pale face. I'm like, oh, Danzig. Okay.
Isn't it like it's almost got it's like a shadowy looking face.
A little bit,
almost,
yeah. It might even have like contacts on.
In contacts or
maybe.
something, right? Which might be look like you can go full monster like this does, or you could do something more subtle like that. I don't know.
I don't know if that works. The Danzig look.
I don't know which one I like better, but I think they could have did it a little bit more subtly, because this is full out ghoul gargoyle.
Maybe that's why it threw me off a little bit. Like it doesn't. I'm hamming it up a little for the sake of what we're talking about. It doesn't look horrible. I just was like, wow, that was not the angle I thought they'd attack this with. I thought it'd be more evil looking.
It's good makeup, but it's not. You're right. It's not exactly what you expected. I like it. I think it's good.
The point is made regardless that even Bobby didn't want to see your ass again, Mom. Now eat shit.
And that's it. It goes to black right after that.
Imagine what Dad saw when he arrived back at home. He's going to see the Solomon's key on the floor. Oops. Even Bobby asks her about that. Why is that on the floor, Mom? Oh, don't worry about that.
Nothing. Tra-la-la.
What's that blood on the floor, Mom?
So what'd you think of this one?
That's really good. Again, like I kind of said at the top of this, if it wasn't a remake, I'm sorry I can't get that thought out of my head after watching both. I think that does detract from it, but absolutely just watch this fucking... I mean, you're going to watch the movie. Don't skip a segment, but this is very good. It's better than the last one, and I like the last one a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I'm trying to say here in that context. I like both versions of Bobby. I'm glad this exists in a form that more people have seen. Yeah. Like you said, maybe just the other movie wasn't widely viewed, and Dan was like, fuck it, let me take another shot at this.
Maybe at the time, but like later it was kind of more lost.
I mean,
like Trilogy of Terror got a release on tape.
Yeah, I mean, I did read some of the reviews, and I mean, again, this is so subjective. Any review is subjective, but that people had looked at Trilogy of Terror 2 and said, oh, it's just a bunch of rehashes. I think you're kind of
selling it short.
Selling it really short and just, kind of carpet sweeping the whole thing. It is worth mentioning that it's a remake, not to beat the dead Bobby here, but
it's not well, this segment
This segment
But that's the only one.
Yeah, that's why I think people are stretching that argument really thin.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good. It's creepy as fuck.
Yeah, man. I think it's creepy as hell, and I love.
I guess he's like a haint or some shit, right?
Yeah, well, no, he's a straight up demon.
Yeah, I guess.
And I love how it deals with the loss of the mother and the grieving mother. And again, I mentioned Pet Sematary before, and it's kind of similar to that.
Well, especially where that film ends up.
Yeah. And it's like sometimes dead is better. Fred Gwynne was right.
He was a little late with that advice.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure it was explained better in the book, but
yeah,
yes.
For sure. Yeah, it's a creepy one, and it hits home on multiple levels, so it's a good one. And the last story 3, He Who Kills.
Yes, there's that phrase again.
That's his actual name.
Was that in the Prey story? Do they refer to? I know you said that earlier.
Yeah,
but...
He Who Kills is in the scroll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She even says that, Karen Black, in the first one, when she's reading the scroll, she's like, he that kills, okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she reads it straight up, and they even read it again in this.
Yes.
In this one. Now, this is written by Bill Nolan and Dan Curtis as a sequel to Matheson's Prey.
Yeah, we were talking about this before the recording, and it's kind of interesting how they do this. You kind of have to kind of use your imagination a little because, again, this is 20-something years removed. You're not going to get the exact same set. You kind of just need to do some mental gymnastics. They're not very involved gymnastics, but yes, they're same. Even though it's a completely different set, it's 1996. Don't overthink it. It's a sequel. It works.
Now, in my head as a kid, I'm only going by what my mother's told me about the original
because you haven't seen it.
episode.
Oh, yeah.
So when I'm watching this, all the things she's saying,
you're picturing in that apartment or
in
house.
that apartment. Yeah. So when I went back and watched the first movie, it wasn't the same.
Probably blew you
so
away.
I had like reverse what you're having, right?
That's interesting. Yeah. I like the concept regardless. You got to kind of like think about it that way. You can't just be like, well, this isn't the same.
Well, sure.
Use your imagination a little.
It's also not a Matheson joint, so like,
yeah, that's crazy to hear.
Yeah, so like it's literally just let's make a sequel based on the original one that did so well.
Well, and also if Dan Curtis was essentially, if you want to word it this way, was the second unit director because the effects guys were involved so heavily with this one. That's almost more interesting because then it's like, I mean, this one is not a shot for shot at all. There's a couple scenes towards the end they emulate, but it makes sense for what they're doing.
Yeah, there's definitely callbacks. But again, how many years removed? You know, it's 1996 versus 1975.
I agree.
You know what I mean? So if people aren't familiar with it, or again, it wasn't widely available. Trilogy of Terror 2, they're like, oh, a sequel? People are going to remember the Zuni doll, but there's a whole fresh audience that's not going to know what the fuck it is. So there's plenty of exposition in this in the beginning to kind of tell you what happened beforehand.
But I do love how we open this up where it's like, yeah, this woman, she had her mother over for dinner. They're fucking dead.
Well, it starts out with the same apartment, air quotes.
Yeah.
And there's a crime scene investigation, and like the boyfriend is there that we hear on the that she was talking to on the phone.
Is it the boyfriend? I thought they said it's like a brother.
No, it's
It is the boyfriend. Okay.
And he like comes in to give his statement to the cops because he has to identify the bodies.
And he's even like, yeah, well, I already saw them once. You need me to see this body again, implying he came over to check on her and was like, oh, shit.
Well, Amelia's dead, but you also see her mother who's also dead.
Right. Which, again, going back to what we talked about earlier, she calls her mom at the end and she's sitting there waiting.
But like, I just thought that was cool how they kind of put that together.
Yeah.
And the lieutenant there is played by Richard Fitzpatrick. And I know him from Goosebumps. Specifically, the Return to the Living Dummy episode, he plays the dad.
Oh.
He's also and Boondock Saints he's in too. So the lieutenant needs him to identify the bodies again, the boyfriend. And like it pans over and like Karen Black's body, you don't see the top half, but you see her like in the robe with the cuts on her legs and shit. So I thought that was pretty interesting. How she died, I don't know. Like, did she kill herself?
I think based on what happens in this, maybe the spirit of the Zuni warrior
slit its own throat.
Well, I think it got somehow back in the doll.
You think so?
I mean, something clasped that chain back on there. Unless she did that. Karen Black was like, well, the killing is done. Let me put the chain back on. Oh, shit, the soul's coming out. I'm dead.
That's the only part that doesn't jive for me.
Yeah. And that's the only reason why, I mean, I was kind of saying this before, but where you could look at this, like you just said, as a standalone. It's clearly meant to be a sequel, but if you don't want to like fill those gaps in, you could just look at it as its own thing.
Yeah. So he identifies the bodies and that's it. So I thought that was kind of cool though that like her mom's there and dead and the boyfriend's there as well. The coroner is Philip Williams, and he plays Danny in Tommy Boy. He's the guy at the wedding that's like, you kidding? Go get him, Tom. He's that guy.
Oh my God. That's a pretty iconic part.
Right.
And I haven't watched it in a while, but I do remember that.
He's also Crutch in Jason X. He's like the guy who drives the ship.
Oh yeah, okay.
Shit. Yeah.
Huh.
So he's like, yeah, these are some weird wounds, Lieutenant. There's like these little stab marks all over the legs, and then the throats are slit. I don't know what the fuck happened here.
Well, and then they find in the oven The burnt up Zuni fetish doll.
Look at this kitchen.
What the fuck? Why is this in here all burned up? What the hell is this?
What the heck is a Zuni fetish doll?
Oh,
the other guy comes over.
I kind of love that.
Yeah, it's great because he comes over and like he opens the scroll. I remember that from the trailer, like specifically, like that line.
Oh yeah, they had that in there.
Yeah, he opens the scroll and he like reads the "He Who Kills" thing, just like in the first movie.
These people love to just read these mysterious scrolls without any kind of caution.
No. So they bag up the fucking the burnt Zuni doll and they want to bring it to a museum to get it like I don't know, identified, like what it is, why it was in there, why it was all burned up in the first place.
And I think that if this is New York, they never flat out say, I think this is the Met, the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
I don't know.
That's the only thing I could think of, because if you go to that museum and you take the tour, or you guys could just look this up.
Have you been there?
Oh, yeah, many times.
Okay. Yeah. Is that what it looked like?
I haven't been there in like in a decade, so I mean, I didn't go online and do a shot-for-shot comparison, but I think it's supposed to be the Met or something very similar to it, because they have like in this movie, scientists working on different things, cultural and bones and shit, like stuff they get for their exhibits.
Really, at the Met?
I mean, unless it's changed or I'm misremembering that, because I thought it might have been the MoMA at first, but that's modern art. And that totally, they don't do that shit there.
I thought it was a Museum of Natural History.
It could have been that, too. You might be right. It's something in that vein, if it's not the Met.
I didn't know the Metropolitan Museum of Art did anthropology stuff.
If I'm wrong about that, somebody in the comments let me know, but I'm almost positive. But regardless, that's the idea, is that it's a museum that has this part of the company where they have doctors and scientists.
So the cops take the doll there to get it like identified because it's part of the crime, and they kind of just want to know what the fuck it is, why it was in an oven, what's the deal with this thing, which is cool. I always like that stuff.
Yeah. Well, they take it to an ethnologist, which is a scientist that studies humans as cultural beings. That is this woman, Dr. Sampson's job.
Isn't that part of anthropology?
I guess it's a more focused study, because I had to hunt for this definition.
Yeah.
I had to read the fucking glass on her door. I was like, what is this woman's job? Spoilers, because the cops come in and they just assume the man is in charge, which I thought was kind of funny, because you always see that shit in real life. And I was like, nope, Dr. Sampson's back there. And they kind of like feel like, oh shit, we were being sexist. Sorry about that. And she's like, I mean, you talked to my assistant on the phone and he told you I was Dr. Sampson. But anyway, what do you got? And they are all embarrassed.
You missed one of the best guys.
Oh, the assistant?
No, one of the security guards.
The security guards.
The older security guard is the
Bassmasters guy?
I love that show, your fishing show. Yeah, he's down there too. No, Aaron Tager, who is Dr. Vink with a vuh.
Oh my, how did I miss
man.
That? He's even reading a fucking Dark Shadows magazine at one point, or comic.
Well, yeah, the other guy is,
Oh, one of them is, okay.
Yeah, wow. I thought that was so funny, dude. I saw him, I was like, holy shit, it's Dr. Vink.
Maybe without the beard, I just didn't put it together.
Yeah, he's clean shaven. You know, but he looks the same as he does in the Zebo episode when he plays the Barker.
Oh, man. Yeah. It's been a minute. I know Dusty gave me those damn DVDs a while ago, but I got to pull the trigger on that show.
I'll throw a clip in. You'll see. Right. So yeah, Lysette is back as Dr. Simpson, like you just said. And again, I wish they just let her speak in her English accent the whole fucking movie, because she sounds so goofy in those first 2 episodes.
Well, yeah, this feels natural because that's her voice.
That's her voice. So they bring her the Zuni doll to identify like what it is and if she can find any clues to the murder.
But keep in mind, like, again, this thing was in the oven, like, and it's covered in charcoal.
So like
blackened.
All the hair is burnt off, and it's like got this nice crust all over it, like a fucking sweet steak or something.
Well, we find out because when she starts chipping away at it, it's instantly peeling off. It's like a top layer of a cake.
It's great, dude, because she's chipping away at it, and like underneath is just the wooden face again. Nothing's wrong with it. Like, it's completely preserved, and she's just scraping all the bad shit off.
I think her and her assistant are even like, it's self-repairing. Is that even possible?
Yeah, the guard's like, yeah, maybe it's repairing itself there.
You'd be out of a job. And she's like, well, no, but yeah, this is fucking weird.
Hey, what else does that scroll say? Oh, yeah, don't take the chain off, or else the spirit of the Zuni fetish doll and the warrior will combine and it'll come to life.
Right. I can't remember. Does it fall off this time, or does she actually take it off?
I think it's like next to it, or she like picks it up, looks at it, and like puts it down.
Oh God, stupid either way.
I think I'm not really sure. It's not back on the doll at all. It's just with the doll when they bring it in, and as she scrapes it off, I guess it reawakens it, or it just took a while to regenerate.
I mean, it's definitely regenerating straight up. Even though she's scraping that shit off there, it grows its hair back.
Yeah, it's cracking its cocoon. It's fucking charcoal cocoon.
But much like the first version, the first Zuni doll, she's also got to cancel a date with her boyfriend, so there's a through line there. And this guy works at the museum also, so he's like, well, I got these fucking tickets. They're expensive, but okay, you got to do your job.
Yeah.
I'll be back at 11. Don't forget that.
Sharp, you better be ready.
I mean, hey, I get it. After she's working that late for this bullshit, the cops bring her.
Yeah. So I thought this was another cool little scene too, because she talks to the lieutenant on the phone, and she talks about how the tribe for this particular doll has been like extinct for 5 centuries.
Yeah, she does go into that,
possibly
right?
ate human flesh, which I thought was interesting.
Which I guess would lean into the sharp teeth, and the biting.
Yeah, and all that stuff.
I mean, plus you have a weapon, you're gonna use it.
The Wachutus were biters.
What is that from?
Ace Ventura.
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah, the second one. That's a sequel that may be better than the original.
Throw me a spear. I think we mentioned that on our Problem Child 2 episode.
We did, you're right.
Yeah.
We need to cover that at some point.
Oh, yeah.
I'll come in with the asparagus hanging out of my mouth for the entire episode.
Samson goes downstairs for pizza with the two.
They have a pizza break.
They have a fucking pizza break while this thing regenerates and like, because it like turns its head and opens its mouth.
Oh yeah,
it's really cool.
They're flexing their muscles now that they got this damn puppet to agree with them.
They come back upstairs and the door is open, and she's like, "Did I leave that door open?" And he's like, "I don't know."
I do like she at least acknowledges it.
She walks in and there's just a pile of shit, like the burnt shit on the table. The doll is gone, and so is the knife that she was using.
The scalpel, which
to scrape off the stuff.
Oh yeah, it isn't the scalpel yet. He does pick one up eventually, and I don't think people realize how sharp scalpels are.
Sharp as hell.
That is like the sharpest knife you could use unless you're like an expert cook.
Besides a filleting knife.
Right, well, yeah.
And she freaks out because the doll's gone. And not that the doll's alive, she freaks out because she thinks that there's a psychopath on the loose that killed those 2 women, and that the psychopath came and took the doll.
Because the cops think that's what's happening, and that's why they're like, you need to rush this because we think there's a serial killer involved. Right. So now that
totally makes sense.
I kind of love it.
Yeah.
It explains it better than just Karen Black, like, this thing was on the table, now it's not. I mean, that still works.
Well, that's
Don't get
different.
me wrong.
You couldn't do that again.
No. But I do love this because now she's like talking to the security guards, but like the phones are down now, so she's got to like physically walk back down. Actually, the guy might be with her. And
she locks herself in the room and the guy goes back
That's
downstairs.
what it is. And he's like, I got to investigate this because she's like, this might be the serial killer. The phones aren't working. This is getting bad.
Yeah.
So he goes to check it out, and he's walking around. He goes back to the fucking security desk, and he's like, all right, the guy from Are You Afraid of the Dark? Are you alive down there?
Yeah, I'll be right back. He goes.
It doesn't actually look.
He goes to the dinosaur exhibit, and like this is so creepy too because like the doll, like you see it like run across the floor in front of him. You see a lot more of the doll in this one than you do in that first movie because it was fucking broken all the time.
Well, you do see the fat man, the old fat man, reading the Dark Shadows comic. The other security guard doesn't walk that far, but you see his throat slit.
Oh yeah. Well, he's
on the floor or some shit.
He's all fucked up and everything's ripped out. Well, she finds him later, I think.
Well, the doctor does, but I think when the security card's coming down, he just doesn't notice it, and he's in by the dinosaur display.
Yeah.
And this fucking doll is hanging out by this Native American or this caveman. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but this bow and arrow, this guy with a bow and arrow.
Dude, he gives him the old Lubden.
I was sitting there trying to do some more mental gymnastics on this one. Like, I don't think that's how they set them up, but I guess I've never worked in a museum. I'm pretty sure it's just glued to look like that, but I guess it has incredible tension.
A loaded bow?
Yeah, all right. Like, I don't know about that. Someone died once at a museum and they never did that again.
This guy.
Yeah, exactly. 96. So it took that long.
It's cool because the Zuni doll like bites the arrow, and it launches into this dude's chest. It's pretty cool.
You get some arrow POV.
Yeah.
Some Evil Dead shit.
I'm with it, man. It's cool.
Takes his ass out. He didn't see anything coming. I want to say this even starts to fucking laughing at him.
Maybe.
It's got a little bit more character in this one.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. Crazier,
yeah.
Yeah, so Simpson goes downstairs to look for Lou and finds Are You Afraid of the Dark Guy dead. She finds Dr. Vink all fucked up.
Yeah, if the other guy didn't find her, someone found his ass.
His throat is slashed and his keys are gone.
Oh, the keys, that's true, right.
And she runs back upstairs to get her keys into the elevator, and this little motherfucker is on top of the elevator.
Oh, that was so cool.
And opens the top of the elevator and jumps down on her and like starts going after her. Man.
They didn't show the part where he had a little screwdriver to get the bolts out.
No, he's up there with John McClane, though.
Yeah, John's up there. Hell of a night. Wasn't even supposed to be here.
Come to the museum, have a few laughs.
And then the fucking Zuni does like next to him laughing with this fucking knife.
He's stabbing him in the fucking eye. Maybe.
I think John McClane.
They split ways?
As much as I'm busting people's balls, I think John McClane could have taken care of a fucking Zuni fetish doll if anybody could have.
They pass Gizmo while they're up there. He's walking through there.
He runs past all that broken glass. His feet are getting fucked up. He's getting stabbed in the feet. Let's just cut him off and install fucking lead shoes at that point. Get those shoes from the guy in, what was that, the floating episode of Tales from the Darkside.
Yeah.
He's got those lead Zelda boots, but there's feet.
Fear of floating guy.
Fear of floating, yeah.
She like jumps out of the elevator at the bottom floor because she didn't even go up yet.
Right.
She finds Lou. He's fucking dead.
Yeah, bow and arrow guy, yeah.
Just jumps over him, starts stabbing the hell out of her legs.
This thing's going at her. You thought it was scary in that first
oh my
movie.
God.
This is like crazy.
But the way that this is shot is so creepy too, man, because there's like close-ups on the Zuni doll, and like the camera like goes in and it's very kinetic.
Action shots, I meant to say, or impact shots.
When they're like going up the stairs, like this whole fight of her going up the stairs, it's really cool because
the elevator, like you just said, yeah.
She's running up the stairs and it like runs up the stairs at the top of the stairs and like scares the shit out of her.
Again, that stepfather energy, man.
Yeah, she like
Bobby energy.
She like throws a suit of armor at it.
That was Edward Elric. Or it might be Alphonse, actually. Either one of the Elric brothers. It's been a while since I watched it.
The helmet like lands on his head and like opens up and he like runs out of it like at her again.
Yes, that was a cool visual.
It's pretty cool.
But the whole point is she's just trying to get back to her office because that's the only way. Because the other thing is this building is locked at all hours. And because they can't find the key, they can't just like break it down. It's like this heavy ass wooden door. And I guess like some of the people have a key unless there's just
cop that's dead.
Then there's a plot hole at the end when the boyfriend shows back up because he either has a key or he just found his way in.
Oh, he probably has a key to get in.
But generally speaking, no one has a key besides the security,
but
so she can't leave.
She can't get out.
Right.
She goes back up.
Or I guess she has one on her keys. That's why she's trying to go.
Keys,
that makes more sense. Okay. But I figured it out. We figured it out.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's pretty solid.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot
how that ends up working out. But she goes back to her office and she locks the door. And you're thinking like this thing is gonna. It's like trying to get in. And
under the door again.
It's got the knife and it's doing the thing and it's like, and it's like. That's
Woody?
That's one of my favorites because it kind of like runs away and you're like, oh, where'd it go? All of a sudden, this thing fucking blows through the glass on the door, like at her or like into the room, and like jumps on the. You see it climbing up like the desk, with the thing in its the knife in its mouth. It's great.
Well, like you said, they're trying to again now that they have this puppet actually working, the way it was intended to. They're gonna try to take all those take out all the stops they couldn't in the original version.
It's doing a lot of shit. She like tries to hit it with an axe and like misses it.
Oh yeah. Well, then she kind of goes like into another part of the lab, and there's more like not the bathroom this time, but again, similar scene of the first one where it's trying to get her under the door again.
Well, yeah, and again, this time you actually see it opening the door, and you see this thing like up on the door.
Oh, with the
knife in its mouth, turning the door handle, like opening the door. So she does the old suitcase trick, or it's a briefcase this time, excuse me. So she briefcases him, she opens the door and then puts him in there. And she runs to go find the keys, but the keys have been like thrown in between like a desk.
Oh yeah, it's like behind a locked area or somewhere that's hard to get
it's
to.
Like in between like a filing cabinet or some shit.
She has to like really strain her arm to get in there, but the whole time. This is my criticism, even though it's cool.
I know.
He's doing the same fucking thing, trying to get out of the briefcase with the quick cutting. It looks insane.
It looks cool.
It's
He's
scary.
like cutting his way out of the... It worked again.
It did.
You know?
And I think she either gets the keys or she abandons them because then she's trying to do the grab the fucking knife thing. This time she actually gets it a couple times, but still gets stabbed.
Why wouldn't you take the axe again and just fucking bring it down on that briefcase?
Because they wanted to redo the scene from the original. Dan Curtis wanted to redo the scene.
I'm just saying, logically.
Yeah. Logically, why wouldn't you just throw it out the fucking window and call it a day or something? I don't know.
True.
Plot needs to happen, yeah.
So, yeah, she's trying to grab it, cuts her fingers up again, same deal. This thing gets out, and it does kind of the same thing. Like, it gets out, then she stabs it again with, like, this thing that looks like an ice pick. It's like the same deal.
It's like a needle this time, though.
And then she opens it up, and then it jumps at her again on the neck.
At some point, though, he does get a scalpel, or it gets a scalpel, and that it does kind of go after her a few times with it. But again, it's just grabbing sharp instruments to stab the shit out of her. It's not really the point that it's a scalpel. It's just this woman's in serious danger.
Oh yeah, 100%. She ends up like he like stabs he like bites her neck, but then she takes it off and fucking throws it into a bath of sulfuric acid
instead of the oven and with the steaks this time. Sulfuric acid.
It's pretty cool, and she like puts the lid on it. And this thing is just like trying to get out, and it's just like this, it's just like melting into this wood pulpy shit as it breaks apart.
But then her career fucking takes over. Like she gets a little too much in her own head. Like, well, I guess this thing needs to survive somehow, so let me put the glove on.
But like, why
get it out?
Why are you taking this out of there? Like, leave it in. Maybe it's the find of the century. I don't know. But like,
I mean, it's a living doll, Joe.
Right. Get a job in a sideshow. I guess, like, I don't know why she wants to take it out because the movie, I guess. But she opens it up, puts these gloves on, takes the thing out. She's going to take it out with these tongs. And then all of a sudden, it's the same shot like the first one. The Zuni spirit comes out of the fucking thing, which I guess you could seal inside of a container.
in a box of sulfuric acid.
Yeah. It comes out and cut to black.
Right. And then we see the boyfriend kind of walking up towards the elevator, like checking his watch, like, I said 11 sharp.
Yeah, Dennis. And he's like, where the hell is everybody? They went to Crazy Joe's Furniture in Howell.
Oh, my God. Talk about a deep cut. I think Crazy Joe's still in business. He's been saying he's going out of it for our whole fucking entire lives, but he's still cooking in Howell, New Jersey.
We had a get-together not too long ago, and nobody knew what the fuck I was talking about.
Like your family or something?
No, like our friends here.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, you guys...
Must be a Jersey thing.
I was like, oh, hey, everybody's gone to Crazy Joe's and Howell. Hey, where'd everybody go? Because nobody got the joke.
Oh, my God.
And I was able to pull up a fucking...
video of it?
Commercial on YouTube.
Oh, how could you not? There's probably hundreds.
Because there's no overhead. Remember that?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I remember.
Brought to you by Crazy Joe's Furniture in Howell.
Come on down to Route 9 in Howell, Brick Boulevard in Bricktown, and our clearance center across the street. You'll be glad you did. There's no more overhead.
Yeah, that's either still in business somehow or he died and that's the only reason they're out. But yes, so this elevator starts coming down and you're like not really sure where it's going. I mean, you have an idea if you've seen Trilogy of Terror 1, but you're not totally sure. She comes down. She means fucking business, Joe.
What are you doing with that?
Yeah, she's got this huge fucking knife in her hand.
She's got the axe.
Oh, the axe. Oh, yeah.
And she fucking rears up and she screams at him and she's got the sharp teeth and she brings down the axe, dude.
She brains him.
She brains him good. And that's it. It got 2 credits.
Oh, also, I forgot to mention this earlier, talking about braining people. She was Lucy in Bram Stoker's Dracula, so she totally gets wolf dorked, by the way.
No. She's... that's what I forgot to mention. She's Lucy in Dracula
Dead and Loving It. Not Bram Stoker's. She still gets wolf dorked, but...
She gets wolf dorked, but it's...
by Liam Neeson, who's just a bat with the head.
Leslie Nielsen.
Oh, what'd I say, Liam Neeson?
Yeah.
Well, he's going to be doing the Naked Gun remake, so that's probably why my wires are getting crossed.
God. No thanks.
That's an interesting choice I'm excited about if they're gonna even bother making it.
I think he could be funny, but I don't need it.
But that's maybe why I'm saying that. Also, their names are similar.
Yes, Lysette Anythony as Lucy in Dracula Dead and Loving It. Totally forgot to say. I love when he's killing her with the fucking thing and there's just blood
everywhere.
Oh, and he keeps hitting it.
I love that movie. It might be one of the best Dracula things. Definitely parody.
We need to talk about that at some point.
There's a bunch of Leslie Nielsen movies I would like to cover in some capacity. It's just one of those things where there's a lot more things that take priority.
Oh no, sure. I'm drinking wine and eating chicken. Well, and Peter McNichol as
as Renfield.
As Renfield is fucking
It would be
hilarious.
that or wrongfully confused or accused rather. Those are the two
I'm
films.
wrongfully confused.
Yeah, we both are. This episode's gone way longer than I think either of us intended, so we're both a little confused.
That's all right. It's an extra packed. It's an extra packed episode. So what did you do? We want to do let's do
same as last time. Let's do.
Yeah, let's do what we thought of this, and then we'll see where it's going.
This is awesome. This is a better version of the first version.
You think so? Better version?
In my opinion.
Okay.
I do think that maybe the first, the one from 75 is shot better. There's a little bit more of that puppet vision that I like. We do get that here, but this feels more like a mid-90s horror movie.
Oh, big time.
Which is, take that for what it is. Some people, they'll run screaming when they hear that. No pun intended with the word scream. Some people will embrace it. I'm kind of in the middle. I like it, but I don't love it. I like the story more in this version for sure. I like that there's more characters, although there is something to be said about Karen Black just acting her ass off by herself.
Seriously.
But yeah, I like this a lot. I don't know. There's something about it. I think Bobby is still maybe the standout in this trilogy. But I think to do a sequel to the Zuni doll, but also make it kind of its own thing where you don't need to see the original, they accomplished that with flying colors.
Totally agree.
And if you had to pick like what version to watch, I'd probably recommend this one. Just because I think overall the story is a little bit more interesting, at least for me personally. Like if I had to say, well, gun to your head, Trilogy of Terror 1 or 2, I might say this one specifically for Bobby and the Zuni fetish doll. Nothing against the
Graveyard Rats.
Yeah, nothing against that one either. But specifically these two stories, and it's on the shelf. I think I just kind of said it, but I like this better than the first one. But then again, like I've kind of said a few times already, beating that fucking dead Bobby again. Just the repeated stories. If I didn't know that, which I want to know, so I'm glad I do know, that just detracts from it a little. It's still a solid like 4 out of 5 for me. It's just in the back of my head, I can't not think about that. It didn't lower the rating at all, but it certainly didn't raise the rating at all either. They're very good remakes, and Dan Curtis did it all, so it's not like it was somebody else doing his work.
It's only one remake.
Well, yeah, again, right.
Yeah,
the Zuni doll is a sequel. Again,
Yeah.
There are some segments that are repeated, like the briefcase and the ending, even though there's a different twist on the ending.
There's like callbacks to the first one for sure. 100%.
But the rest is different. You're right.
Yeah.
I don't mean to phrase it that way. It's a requel, I would almost argue.
Yes.
More so than
the first
a
of
remake.
its kind.
Kinda. Well, that's a different rabbit hole to go down.
We can split hairs.
But yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
So both of these films are on the shelf, but specifically two
is your favorite?
Of the two, yeah.
Just to put the cap on He Who Kills in Trilogy of Terror 2, I love the first one in the Matheson story, and I really think Dan and Bill did a good job of writing a sequel to that. And it's super fun, and it's very much a product of the 90s. Like, it feels so 90s, but I love it so much too. It is like, it was made for USA, but I was going to say it is like prime made for TV USA horror, I think. And it just sticks out so vividly in my mind, like as a kid, and even now coming back to it and checking it out and watching it and reviewing it, kind of dissecting it. I think it holds up. I think it's really good. I mean, for something that's however many years later as a sequel to it, I think they did a really good job of not only telling the story but keeping all of the parts of the lore from the first one intact and carrying it over, like having the mother there and she's dead. It's like a double homicide plus the thing in the oven, and then it's pretty interesting how they bring it to the museum to like figure out like what it's made out of. Is this part of the killer's motif, or what is the deal here? What is the deal with this doll?
Well, you're getting more information about it, which is something I feel like in other episodes or movies we've covered when there's a similar situation and you don't get that. We've brought up like we want that. So that part was actually pretty cool.
But it could have been shit, but it was good.
Yeah.
And you get little bits of it, like you a little bit more about the tribe where it was from. And a little bit more lore there. Yeah, it does rehash some of the stuff from the first one, but I'm all right with that.
Yeah.
And I love what they did with the doll and the animatronics and how it gave it, you have to up the ante. You know what I mean?
Or at least try to.
Yeah. And now I think they're two different ones in terms of like in the first one, it's a different kind of thing.
No, you're
where
right.
it's a more slow burn, it's more creepy and more atmospheric and more scary that way, where less you see, the creepier it is. And while Karen Black's being terrorized, it's much different than this one, where it's more like straightforward slasher in your face. This fucking thing is everywhere, killing everybody and everything.
True, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It is way more slasher than just a psychological thriller.
It's much more about the doll than it is about any of the other characters, including Lysette Anythony,
which was a choice,
right? But the first one is very much about Amelia rather than the doll, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
Yeah, but I love these movies. I think they're a great pairing, and like I said in the beginning, like how Trilogy of Terror is like my mom's made-for-TV horror movie, and Trilogy of Terror 2 is like my made-for-TV horror movie, and they kind of come together, and they have this kind of this really cool like symbiotic relationship where that is very much 70s product of its time, and this is very much 90s product of its time. Everything from the effects to the writing to the way that it's shot. And I think it's just, we talk about remakes and sequels and all that kind of stuff, and how you could really fumble the ball and make it like not great.
Yeah.
And I think this really succeeds in terms of being it's just a made for TV movie. You know what I mean? It's not fucking Citizen Kane or some shit like that.
Well, we're not saying that.
But like, I think for what it is and the purpose of what Dan was trying to do and like the goal of what he was trying to do, I think it's fucking solid as hell. And the pairing of both is really great. And I just love the way the 70s ones feels, and I love the way the 90s one feels for completely different reasons, but they also share. They both work together really well for like a double feature,
So I think the boat has already passed, and I don't even know if Dan Curtis is still alive.
No,
but
he passed away.
Okay, so I was going to say, about 10 years ago, we should have gotten part 3. But
Trilogy of Terror 3?
Well, I'm saying if you did it every 20 years, now we're going on almost 30. So I guess, again, the ship has sailed. Bilbo and Gandalf were already on the ship with Dan Curtis. I would have been interested to see what that could have been if it was another made-for-TV, because I know you just kind of talked about it, but I thought that was... it was smart that the second one was also made for TV, because now you do have these two... 1 and 2 are both like within this certain limitation, and I think that that's why they work so well.
There was like no budget for this one either, and they did what they could. And I think they did such a great job. And usually 9 times out of 10, when you give people less, they usually do more.
Well,
because they have to make it work.
Like the doll breaking, like we're talking about Bruce from Jaws. It created one of the best movies of all time, but I'm sure Spielberg and his team were pissed for most of that production.
It would have been a different kind of movie. You know? I mean, I would love to do Trilogy of Terror 3. That would be that would be so fun, even though it's like 30 years later or whatever. Like I love that idea.
Find an actress that's interested in that concept. I mean, there's some names popping in my head that might be a little too obvious, but
let me guess. Let's get Jenna Ortega.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Well, I was gonna say, what's her face? Because I know you weren't a huge fan of her. What's her? I forgot her name. Sydney Sweeney.
Sydney Sweeney. Oh God. Actually, it would make sense. It would fit right in with that kind of soapy feel that these both have. You know, that made-for-TV soapy feel.
I mean, I feel like either of them could knock it out of the park if they really wanted to. But yeah, I could see that would be the route. A younger actress, even though both of these are kind of either middle-aged, if not a little bit older. You need a
little bit of a little
30s or 40s, if not
older. Yeah, a little bit older. I'd be so down with that. I think we're due for a good Trilogy of Terror 3. I think we're due. Like we talked about Cabinet of Curiosities before, Guillermo del Toro. There's Black Mirror, of course.
There are a lot of options.
There are a lot of anthology type TV shows, but I don't think anything's really nailing a Trilogy of Terror or Tales from the Darkside or Twilight Zone, in my opinion.
I know what you mean, like the kind of vibe or the feeling that these films give you.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's just because the time they were made and that's just that ship has sailed, but
right, I'm saying.
But I feel like it's possible to do it because again, like this feels completely different than this film, but they also feel the same at the same time.
Right.
Which is a weird thing to say.
I mean, I guess with all of that bullshit spewed out into the ether, I guess I should just be glad it's not a Creepshow 3 situation.
No, God,
and just count my fucking blessings. I mean, I guess I got the TV show out of that, which I've heard mixed reviews on. But
some of it's good, some of it's, you know.
Yeah, I don't know how you would do a Trilogy of Terror, the TV show. I don't know what that would even fucking be.
It wouldn't be. It would just be one TV movie and that's it. Yeah. And then another 30 years from then, do another one, do Trilogy of Terror 4.
But with all that said, I'm glad we have these two movies and I'm glad we finally talked about them on the show.
Yeah.
So I could finally just have an excuse to watch them. Yeah. Not that I need one, but also because... they were just fun to talk about, and it was interesting hearing the past you had with these films.
No, these are very.
That I didn't really know.
Yeah, it's very special to me. They're very special to me. So, I'm glad we got them. They're both on the shelf for me. I'll probably lean towards Trilogy of Terror 2 only because that's the one that
your Trilogy of Terror.
Right, I watched happen like real time, and it only wins by a hair from the nostalgia. You know what I mean?
Mine's Tommy Knockers. Yeah,
you love Tommy Knockers.
Fucking sucks. So bad.
The Langoliers. There you go. You can watch that.
I don't know that one. Is that good or bad? Is that a joke? I guess it's bad.
You think Tommy Knockers is bad?
King has not had, I mean, in more recent years, he's had some good luck, but there's a good decade or two where it's like, what are you signing off on, King? Did you really need the money?
Langoliers is a good story. The effects are fucking dog shit for that.
It's one of those.
Yeah.
Okay. And after all that said, if you want some more Movie Dumpster podcast content, you can head over to patreon.com/moviedumpster and sign up for one of our many tiers. We got the $2, $5, and the $10 tier. We got all kinds of stuff like commentary tracks, junk mail, live watch-alongs where we watch a movie with you guys, the Dumpster Dwellers. In fact, we have A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6. Is that what it is? Part 6?
Part 6. Freddy's dead.
And a bunch of other things, minisodes, behind-the-scenes content. Head over to patreon.com/moviedumpster and check it out.
Yeah, man. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, please like and share this video if you're digging it, or if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, do us a favor, leave that 5-star review because it really helps the show reach more listeners. And if you're enjoying it, share the wealth. You know what I'm saying? It don't cost a dime, and it only takes a minute of your time. So if you could do that for us, we'd really appreciate it.
And if you want to keep up with what's going on in the dumpster, you can follow us at Movie Dumpster on social media or head over to moviedumpsterpodcast.com. We've got all our upcoming episodes on there, our upcoming events like Monster Mania, VHS Fest, and the rest. There's a big banner at the top. Check it out. We've also got a store. This shirt might be coming soon. Let us know in the comments from our friend Logan. If you like it, we'll put it out. We got some other stuff up there. We got a Goro shirt. We got some Movie Dumpster shirts. We got a damn beach towel. There's a lot of options. Check it out. MovieDumpsterPodcast.com if you want to support the show.
So that's it. That's Trilogy of Terror from 1975 and Trilogy of Terror 2 from 1996, directed by Dan Curtis. I'm Joel Escola.
And I'm Sean O'Rourke.
Thanks for visiting the dumpster.